Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Waste power. I can get stronger just by breathing. Chapter 21. At this moment, Lu Yuanman's face looked a little dazed as the huge shocking fact shocked his spirit. Amidst the blessings from the principles of Hangcheng, he felt that his feet were a little unsteady. He understood very well what Sugu had brought to him. Looking at the enthusiastic crowd below, it was no accident that Sugu would become the idol of the entire Hangzhou students. In the future, relying on Sugu's name, he will be able to attract students who are far better than he is now. And next, if Sugu can win the provincial champion, the provincial educational resources will also be tilted towards their school. If we can seize this opportunity, Hangcheng No. 1 Middle School will be prosperous. As the principal, he never thought that one day he would be able to take advantage of his students. The next step is to distribute the final test questions. After completing this question, Sugu will become the provincial champion. At this moment, Mayor Lu Chengwei said proudly. After finishing speaking, he inadvertently glanced at the examiner Zhou Zhengsheng next to him. Then, the expression on his face became more relaxed. The alien race in the starry sky that appears in the last question is the alien race in the starry sky that is about to break through the awakening level and reach the warrior level. This is not for ordinary students to kill at all. This is for selecting the top group of warriors born every year. For those top martial arts universities, the score in the last question plays a big part in determining whether the student will be recruited. The last question is manually scored by the examiner. The examiner Zhou Zhengsheng obviously had a very good impression of Sugu. As long as Sugu's performance is not too outrageous, it will be safe to win this year's provincial champion. The expressions on the faces of the principals who stayed in the VIP viewing room at this moment also became excited. No matter which school they were students from, they were all from the same city. They all had a strong sense of participation at this moment. The examiner Zhou Zhengsheng nodded, and then said on the radio, "Start distributing the final test questions to the two remaining candidates in the examination room." Under his command, a white transport plane slowly took off. After the transport plane took off, the aliens in the starry sky inside would keep roaring and roaring. And this transport plane carrying the quasi-warrior level starry sky aliens was surprisingly quiet. It was so quiet that people looked at the transport plane and felt an inexplicable sense of depression. To celebrate my good brother winning the provincial championship, I just asked my housekeeper to reserve the largest hotel in the city, the Tenglong Hotel, for my brother's entrance banquet. As long as you want to come and eat, just go to Tenglong. I will pay for all the expenses. Ma Mingji held his cell phone and shouted excitedly, and he was responded to by a burst of equally excited shouts. Master Ma is awesome. I will definitely go to Su Shen's college entrance banquet. Holy shit, any meal costs thousands. I guess this is the only hotel in our city that can host Su Shen's entrance banquet. Infected by such a strong atmosphere, even the previously somewhat hostile martial arts high school students congratulated Sugu from the bottom of their hearts. The previous quarrel was because they thought Zhang Pojian and Su Jiyu were still competing. Now that they have discovered that they are not on the same level, there is nothing to quarrel about. Next, in the same city and in the same grade, the provincial champion will be born. As students from Hangzhou, they are also happy from the bottom of their hearts. The snow-white armed transport plane flew slowly in the sky, and the roar of the engine sounded above Sugu's head, getting louder and louder. The transport plane began to lower its altitude. Sugu looked at the armed transport plane in the sky and narrowed his eyes slightly. This was the armed transport plane that he was quite concerned about before the college entrance examination started. Looking at this transport plane at that time, he had the feeling that the creature inside was staring directly through the iron sheet. It was a suffocating feeling as if being buried in the deep sea, which made Sugu's memory quite profound. Now I see again that although many combat skills have been strengthened and improved due to the fighting in the examination room, there is still a sense of danger lingering around Sugu. He couldn't help but tighten the spear in his hand. Sugu, don't be complacent. I still have an A-level combat skill that I haven't fully mastered. With my second blood heat potion, the final kill of the star alien in the test may not be yours. Quote. Zhang Pojian looked at Sugu and roared unwillingly. He knew that all the teachers and all the remaining candidates must be watching the live broadcast, and now all their eyes must be on Sugu. He is not willing to give in. This position should be his. He is the one who should carry everyone's expectations and win the provincial champion. Now they have all been snatched away by Sugu. I must take back all of this with my own hands. Zhang Pojian shouted crazily in his heart. After hearing this, Su Jiyu frowned slightly. He looked at Zhang Pojian and said, "Hurry up and press your survival watch now. What comes next is not something you can face." Although the other party has been provoking, as they are both human beings, Sugu does not want him to die at the hands of a foreign race. "Are you suspicious of the military plan?" Zhang Pojian snorted coldly and ignored Sugu's dissuasion. If it weren't for Sugu, he would have been the strongest martial arts examinee in this city. "You Sugu can face the next college entrance examination questions, but I have to run away." What a joke. Su Jiyu shook his head gently. Good words can't persuade the ghost. Since the other party didn't listen, he didn't say anything more. He held the spear with both hands and stared at the star aliens imprisoned in the transport plane that had already been released. His eyes were burning with fighting spirit. A gray metal box covered with yellow warning strips fell from the transport plane in the sky. Bang! As the box was dropped on the ground, an AI prompt sounded. "The final test questions have been released. Please do your best and put your own safety first." Then the sound of metal gears biting sounded, and the walls of the gray metal box fell from all directions. A humanoid creature stood up from inside. After he stood up, he was 5 meters tall, like a low building. The skin of his body was black, but under the sunlight, it reflected colorful light, with a kind of weird beauty. This is a star titan. After Zhang Pojian injected the second blood heat potion, he rushed towards the monster. He couldn't beat Su Jiyu in terms of speed anyway, so he couldn't care about tactics, he had to attack quickly. B-level combat skill, 13 chop of shocking stone. Zhang Pojian's B-level combat skill, which was enough to kill high-level awakening realm in seconds, had always been invincible. Now he stood on the legs of this creature without reservation. Bang! After the axe collided with the body of the creature, a dull sound was made, but nothing else happened. Zhang Pojian's expression was dull. It shouldn't be like this. Even if it was a star alien who had reached the perfect awakening level and was about to step into the general's position, it shouldn't be like this after being hit by him. Then he felt a strong force coming, and then he heard the sound of several bones breaking in his body. The giant seemed to have just woken up, from the initial confusion of looking at the environment to a human smile on his face, but this smile looked extremely cruel. He looked at Su Jiyu not far away, and Zhang Pojian, who had just been accidentally slapped away by him, and said slowly, "Finally let me out, human." He can speak. Ma Mingji swallowed hard. Those who watched the live broadcast had their hair standing on end for a moment, and they knew exactly what this meant. In the VIP viewing room, Zhou Zhengsheng stood up suddenly and shouted at the radio. "Stop the exam, go save the students. This alien has been promoted to a general. Awakening, generals, commanders, kings. Every time the star aliens cross a level, they will get an essential improvement and leap. Among them, the most significant difference between the awakened star aliens and the generals is that the generals have wisdom that is no less than that of humans, and can even communicate with each other in language. Among them, those star aliens with a long heritage even have a human-like inheritance for the younger generation. So humans will capture awakened star aliens for trials, but the generals will never use the generals as materials for their own selection trials. The uncontrollable factors of wisdom are too high. Killing the generals of the star aliens can only accumulate military merits." Ma Mingji was dialing frantically with his mobile phone. "Butler, don't worry about the entrance banquet for now, call an ambulance quickly, come and save my life, it's urgent." At this moment, he was extremely anxious, but he couldn't go in, so he could only make other preparations now. "Who put this thing in the examination room? Are you taking an exam? This is killing people." Sugu's head teacher Jolie seemed to ignore the reserve of a female teacher and roared at a garrison soldier. For students who are still in the self-cultivation realm, the alien race of the general level is equivalent to a big martial arts realm ahead. Only warriors who have stepped into the realm of seeking me with the help of martial arts can fight with it. Even fools in this world know how big the gap is. How to fight this, it will cost lives. She wanted to rush into the examination room to save her students, but was stopped by the guards. Please calm down. The chief examiner Zhou Zhengsheng has personally led people to rescue. Please wait here patiently. After hearing this, teacher Zhou Li sat on the ground with a depressed look on her face. Just as the garrison soldier said, the chief examiner Zhou Zhengsheng jumped out from the height of the basin, like a flying eagle, walking and running in the sky, approaching the area where Su Jiyu and Zhang Pojian were at a very fast speed. Looking at the top warrior in the sky who was enough to subdue the general-level alien race, Zhou Li's hanging heart was slightly settled. At this moment, she silently prayed that her students could hold on until the rescue arrived. In the examination room of the fallen city, the starry sky titan looked at Zhang Pojian, who was knocked away by him and the battle axe in his hand, and his black face showed uncontrollable anger. I feel the breath of my people on your weapon. How dare you blaspheme like this? Humans, you deserve to die. After saying this, the ground that the starry sky titan had just stepped on suddenly sank, and then he rushed over at a speed that was completely inconsistent with his body size. A fist the size of a person smashed down fiercely on Zhang Pojian's body. Zhang Pojian looked at the fist covering his entire body, and his hairless face was twisted because of fear. He seemed to see the scimitar of the god of death. Bang! A long spear pointed at the joints of his fist. Sugu's calm but high-spirited eyes met the enemy's angry eyes. Silver gun, black fist. The collision of powerful forces caused the air to vibrate, rippling a circle of visible ripples. The starry sky titan looked at Su Jiyu with a look of surprise on his face, but then the surprise turned into excitement. Since he was captured by humans, he had no intention of returning alive. He chose to use a secret method that could be called self-mutilation to avoid the eyes of the top human powerhouses and conceal his own strength. He just wanted to get himself into this trial of human selection of warriors and kill as many human geniuses as possible. Although my origin is greatly damaged now, the punch just now was a realm higher than yours after all. I, Buanu, will die without regrets if I can pull such a potential warrior among humans to be buried with me before I die. Buanu, the starry sky titan, flashed with excitement in his eyes and increased the strength of his fist again. The silver spear, facing the bending pressed by the black fist, Su Jiyu frowned slightly. He said to Zhang Pojian beside him, "Hurry up and press the survival watch." Zhang Pojian looked confused. Facing such a monster, what use could the energy shield of the survival watch have? But he still pressed it. When he was wrapped in the energy shield, Su Jiyu turned the spear in his hand and pulled the fist to the right. After stopping the wrestling with the opponent, Su Jiyu took advantage of this gap and kicked the energy shield. The energy shield that could block the direct shot of the submachine gun was deformed and broken by Sugu's kick, and then kicked Zhang Pojian in the face. Su Jiyu. Zhang Pojian's teeth flew with him, and then he flew away from the battlefield with this huge force. When I was robbing my monster, I wanted to do this. It was really cool. Su Jiyu said lightly, and then tapped the ground lightly, quickly pulling away from the starry sky titan. At this moment, the teachers of the first martial arts high school were secretly relieved when they saw their students leaving the battlefield. Zhang Pojian flew at least several hundred meters just now. The nearby rescue has arrived. He is saved now. What about Su Jiyu? The examiner Zhou Zhengsheng will be here soon. As long as Su Jiyu can survive the next round of attacks from the starry sky titan, he can be saved. Resist the attack of an alien race with a higher level. Is this possible? I think it is more reliable to run to waste time. The students watching the live broadcast outside the examination room talked a lot and began to make suggestions for Sugu's escape. Some friends and teachers who were close to Su Jiyu put their hands together and prayed for him, hoping that he could survive this period until rescue arrived. At this moment, Su Jiyu shook his spear lightly, and a bunch of gun flowers bloomed. Looking at the starry sky titan, his eyes were full of fighting spirit. In the moment of wrestling just now, he had improved his proficiency in several combat skills to a complete mastery. This was the speed of combat skill improvement that had never been seen in the entire college entrance examination. Strength improvement, encounter with strong enemies, life and death crisis, everything that happened to Su Jiyu was stimulating the adrenaline of this martial arts fanatic at this moment. His current state is incomparably good. Buanu looked at Sugu's appearance and smiled. Gradually destroying a hopeful human being, this process is a top enjoyment. I like to torture geniuses, he said lightly. Then, two figures of different races suddenly disappeared on the spot, and the roar in the air and the constantly interlaced black and white light told the collision of the two. Puff! This was the sound of flesh being pierced, and the figures of the two species reappeared. The right shoulder blade of the star titan Buanu was pierced. The spear in Sugu's hand also broke into pieces and turned into scrap metal. After the two figures crossed each other, they stood on their own sides. At this time, the figure of the examiner Zhou Zhengsheng, who was rushing over quickly, could be vaguely seen. Seeing this situation, everyone's faces showed excitement. Su Ji did it. The examiner is here, this star titan is dead. Too strong, it can actually withstand the attack of an alien race that is one realm higher than itself, and even hurt the other party. In the future, Su Ji will definitely be able to cross the star sea in his physical body. Just as the faces of those who were watching the live broadcast were filled with the joy of welcoming victory, a strange smile appeared on the face of the star titan Buanu. He took out 3 small flags with strange shapes and threw them in 3 directions. When the 3 flags were planted on the ground, 3 black curtains immediately rose up, forming a 3-pointed cone-shaped field, covering the 2 people. Bang! Zhou Zhengsheng, who was outside the field, used his iron fist to hit the black curtain fiercely. The terrifying force sucked the surrounding air into a vacuum in an instant, but the black curtain did not shake at all. The secret treasure of our tribe is the flag of life and death. The creatures in the field divided by these 3 flags must be separated into life and death before they can get out. Unless they are old monsters at the commander level, no one can break this field from the outside. The face of the Buanu showed a sadistic expression, and then said, I will enjoy the process of killing the pride of the human race. Then, the penetrating wound beside Buanu's shoulder blade recovered rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if it did not exist. After listening to Buanu's words, teacher Jolie threw her mobile phone aside helplessly, not daring to watch the next live broadcast. Ma Mingji's expression also became dejected, and he also looked desperate. The commander level corresponds to the soul-shaping realm on the human side, and the great power of igniting soul fire. There are not many such people in the whole city of Hangzhou, and these people can't rush here quickly for Su Ji. Next, Su Ji must fight a life and death battle with a creature that is 1 level higher in this area. How to fight this? This monster can recover quickly from penetrating wounds, and Sugu's weapons are useless. Someone murmured. At this moment, Su Ji looked at the flag covering him with some curiosity, and then his expression became excited. He threw the silver spear in his hand that was broken into pieces aside, and took off the double daggers that he would not use next. The last thing hanging on his waist was the long sword that he had always carried but had never had the chance to unsheath. At this moment, he held the hilt of the sword and slowly drew the sword out of the sheath. The tiger has the intention to hurt people, and people also have the intention to subdue the tiger. The other party wanted to kill Su Ji to bury him, and Su Ji also wanted to prove his truth with the other party's blood. Su Ji has pulled out his knife. Is he going to fight to the death? If I were Su Ji, I would use my speed to consume time and try to delay until someone who can break this layer of black curtain comes. That's also difficult. The starry sky titan is tall, but that doesn't mean it's slow. In the confrontation just now, Su Ji didn't have an advantage in speed. Running away blindly will only make him die faster. What should we do? That titan can regenerate even penetrating wounds at a high speed. How can we students beat it? Whether it's students, teachers, or the principal who are watching the live broadcast at this moment, the expressions on their faces are extremely anxious. They don't know how good Su Ji is at using a knife, they can only estimate that it's the same as his using double daggers and spears. But this can't stop the titan. Didn't the use of the spear just now prove that the weapon will be broken by the titan after 1 round? At this moment, Su Ji stood in place, breathing the air calmly and melodiously. With every breath he took, the proficiency of the only A-level combat skill he mastered was rising rapidly. Complete a breath A-level combat skill. Lion Roar 10,000 Tiger's Sword, experience plus 200, current combat skill proficiency is slightly accomplished. Complete a breath A-level combat skill. Lion Roar 10,000 Tiger's Sword, experience plus 200, current combat skill proficiency is slightly accomplished. Complete a breath A-level combat skill. Lion Roar 10,000 Tigers Sword, experience plus 200, current combat skill proficiency is slightly accomplished. Countless martial arts experience and knowledge were catalyzed by the atmosphere of this death battle and poured into Sugu's mind. Sure enough, only fighting can make his superpowers improve more quickly. Sugu rushed towards the titan in front of him, and the knife in his hand swung towards the enemy like a wave. Buanu showed a mocking expression. This is an opponent who is one realm higher than him, and he dared to take the initiative to attack. He is brave but not wise. He waved his arms, trying to break the knife like a spear. The fist and the knife collided with each other, and there was a moment of stalemate between the two, but then Sugu's knife began to press towards the fist. Buanu roared. He wanted to smash Sugu's weapon, but every time he was cleverly relieved by Sugu. At this moment, he actually felt that he was completely suppressed in terms of fighting skills. He roared and waved more violent fists, but it was still useless. Sugu seemed to have seen through all his fists, and the terrifying knife force was actually forcing him back. Everyone's expression was dumbfounded. They could never think that Sugu would dare to take the initiative to attack. What was even more unexpected was that Sugu, holding a long knife, could actually suppress the alien race who was one level higher than himself with his own martial arts skills. Is he really the same age as us? Someone murmured. The chief examiner Zhou Zhengsheng, who was separated from the battlefield by the flag of life and death, looked at the scene in front of him with deep eyes. He quietly put away the pills he had taken out. This is a pill that can improve the realm and strength of life. Originally, he took this highly stimulating drug and returned to the soul-shaping realm temporarily to save Sugu at the cost of sacrificing himself. After all, how can a disabled veteran compare to such a newcomer with unlimited possibilities? Now it seems that it is not necessary for the time being. Sugu, how many surprises can you give me? Zhou Zhengsheng looked at this student who had been beyond his expectations since the beginning of the exam and said in his heart. At this moment, under Sugu's constant pressure and suppression, Buanu retreated one after another. Once he wanted to fight back, he would be cleverly resolved, and then he would be greeted with a more fierce attack. Sugu's swordsmanship, like an endless wave, has completely suppressed him. Shame, great shame. I was suppressed by such a lowly race as humans, and it was a human who was one realm lower than me. I am a star titan, a race born for fighting. Buanu's eyes gradually turned scarlet, and the black skin on his body began to turn gray. His power suddenly became extremely huge, and he used force to break Sugu's sword domain. Sugu noticed something was wrong and quickly pulled away. Ah! At this moment, the star titan Buanu seemed to have lost his mind, turned into a beast again, and let out a crazy roar. Blood burst skill. The star titan has gone berserk. The person watching the live broadcast said excitedly. This is the burning life skill launched by the warlord level star alien when facing a mortal enemy stronger than himself, which can greatly improve. Sugu, run away quickly. As long as we can hold on until the titan's power declines, we will win. Someone shouted in his heart. But the next second, they were slapped in the face. The figure of the star titan Buanu kept moving in the entire space, turning into countless afterimages covering Sugu. With his inky black skin, it seemed to cover the dark curtain of the world. This is too fast. Such a huge body can move like this. It's a foul. It's over. The opponent didn't give Sugu a chance to avoid the fight. Now the field is small and we can only face it head on. How can we fight? This is a crazy alien race that is one level higher. In the desperate eyes of everyone, Sugu slowly exhaled, and his eyes became excited. A-level combat skill. Lion Roar 10,000 Tiger's Blade, proficiency has been improved. Current combat skill proficiency is Perfect Mastery. This combat skill he mastered before the college entrance examination is difficult to improve after a small success. At this moment, under the pressure of a strong enemy, he finally completed a breakthrough. Sugu put the knife into the sheath, holding the handle in his hand, as if accumulating strength. No matter how the titan moved, he stood in place, responding to changes with the same. Suddenly, Nabwanu pounced on Sugu, and the huge body seemed to be pressing down on Sugu's mountain. This was his last life-threatening blow. It was over. The students and teachers watching the live broadcast shouted in their hearts, they couldn't think of anyone who could stop such an attack. And at this moment, Sugu's knife was unsheathed. It was like the roar of an ancient beast, coming from the knife. The blade seemed unable to contain such a strong force, and began to tremble and disintegrate. Finally, when the knife turned into pieces, the knife-like turned into a solid entity and chopped out. The mountain that pressed towards Sugu was cut off from the waist in an instant. At the same time, the black area that had been covering the surrounding environment began to dissipate. Boom! With a loud bang, the body of the alien fell to the ground, and the black curtain covering the surroundings began to dissipate. The sun passed through the basin and shone on the body of the young man in the center of the fallen city. At this moment, everyone watching this live broadcast had their eyes wide open. Many years later, no one forgot this scene. The slender young man held the broken handle of the knife, and next to him was the body of the alien that he had cut in half. A piece of sunlight fell, covering the young man with golden brilliance, like a god. Sugu casually threw the broken blade aside. After swinging the knife, not only was the blade broken, but he also felt as if all his strength had been drained. His intuition told him that the A-level combat skills that had reached perfect proficiency were not powers that could be fully mastered by the cultivation level, so this happened. I still don't practice enough. Sugu sighed softly in his heart. At this moment, Zhou Zhengsheng, who had been in the sky and witnessed the entire battle, slowly fell down. He looked at Sugu with a complicated expression and praised. It's amazing. This is my first time as a college entrance examination examiner, but I probably won't see students like you again in the future. You can actually master powers that don't belong to your own realm, and kill enemies across borders. Sugu made the fist-holding ceremony expected of a warrior from the Sha region, accepted the other party's praise generously, and then said, "Thank you, Senior Examiner, for your compliment, and thank you for coming to the rescue." Zhou Zhengsheng looked at Sugu, who behaved generously and appropriately. The more he looked at him, the more he admired him. Finally he couldn't help but say, "Sugu, do you want to come to the military academy to develop? I still have some connections in the military. If you nod, I can write you a letter of introduction and you can go to any top military school you want to go to." Listening to the examiner in the live broadcast saying this, everyone had envy on their faces. Although those military academies do not directly participate in college rankings, they directly have the resources of the military. It is by no means worse than any top martial arts university in Shiyu. And looking at the military medal shining on Zhou Zhengsheng's chest, and having a letter of recommendation written by such a person, Sugu has reached the sky in one step. Although envious, no one showed jealousy. They all knew that this was what Sugu deserved. Sugu was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect such a development. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Thank you, Senior Examiner, for your kindness, but I am used to being careless by nature, and a harsh place like the military is not suitable for me." "That's such a pity," Zhou Zhengsheng said regretfully, and then said in a serious tone. "In that case, let's talk about business. As the examiner of this exam, I will manually grade the student's performance in solving the final exam questions. In this exam, some people neglected their duties and mistakenly brought the warrior-level Star Titan into the exam room, which almost led to a big mistake. Fortunately, Mr. Sugu showed martial arts prowess far beyond his age and level, and was able to save the world. First of all, on behalf of the staff behind the martial arts test, I would like to apologize to Mr. Sugu. We will give you another explanation about this matter. As for your score, I will give you 10,000 points. This score is the limit that I can give you within my power, but I don't think it represents your ability. 10,000 points. Although I had already had psychological expectations, hearing this score still made me dizzy. The combined scores of all the martial arts candidates in a general school are not as high as Sugu's alone. It's really too abnormal. And what the examiner means is that this is the limit he can give, not the limit of Sugu's personal ability. This kind of evaluation is really too high. What's Sugu's score now? 18,761 points. My dear mother, this is over 5,000 points higher than the highest score in previous years. The students murmured and sighed, looking at Sugu in the image as if they were looking at a monster. The top scholar in the province this year must be Sugu, a student from Hangzhou. Mayor Liu Chengwei let out a roar regardless of his image. Only then did everyone remember this. Yes, with Sugu's results, he has surpassed the previous number 1 pick by nearly 5,000 points. Who else can compete with him? My brother became the number 1 scholar. My brother really became the number 1 scholar. Sugu is my student, and I am his class teacher. My student became the top scorer in the martial arts exam. We have won the top prize in the first high school in Hangzhou. Ma Mingji immediately hugged the person next to him, raised his arms and roared. The head teacher Zhou Li also completely gave up on female restraint, wearing 6-centimeter high heels and still jumping up and down to celebrate. Lu Yuanman, the principal of Hengcheng No. 1 Middle School, went crazy as if Fan Jin had passed the national examination. Look, Sugu has come out of the fallen city. Someone pointed at the sky and shouted. After the examiner Zhou Zhengsheng finished announcing the scores, he put Sugu on his shoulders and took him out of the examination room. Sugu is awesome, Su Shen is awesome. Sugu, from now on you will be our martial arts test god in Hangzhou. From now on, I will tell my juniors and juniors that I must come to pay homage to you before the exam. Sugu, forever a god. Can you tell us how you practice? Give a sharing lecture on combat skills. I'll pay for it. Before Sugu fell from the sky, the shouts of students could be heard all around. Among these people, there are students from martial arts high schools and students from comprehensive high schools. At this moment, they put aside all their previous prejudices and conflicts, and shouted at the top of their lungs to Sugu. This is the support and worship of the martial arts masters who defeated the powerful alien races in the starry sky, which was born in the Dark Ages and passed down for hundreds of years. This spirit easily transcends the stereotypes caused by the so-called different schools. Not far away, Zhang Pojian was being treated on a stretcher. He was kicked by Sugu and suffered a concussion and fainted. When he woke up and happened to see this scene, his hairless head was immediately filled with jealousy. How he wished that he was the one standing in the center of those people at this moment, so he turned his head and fainted again. Just after Su Jiyu was sent down from the sky by Zhou Zhengsheng, a group of people rushed up. Those people stretched out their hands to Su Jiyu, almost lifting him back into the crowd. This made Su Jiyu, who had just experienced a great battle and had consumed a lot of physical strength, feel very uncomfortable, and he didn't stop until the army came out to maintain order. The martial arts exam is over. Please all students get on your own troop carrier. We will leave this fallen city next. The sound of the horn suppressed the surging crowd. Seeing the people around him gradually retreat, Su Jiyu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. When he was about to find Ma Mingji and take the troop carrier he came from, Mayor Liu Chengwei stopped him. Student Su Jiyu, come, you and us and the chief examiner take a car. Su Jiyu was stunned for a moment. He didn't know this middle-aged man in a suit. But looking at the principal of his own school beside him, he showed an extremely envious look, and the head teacher Zhou Li kept hinting with his eyes. I almost guessed the other party's identity. Thank you for your invitation. I will obey your order. Then Su Jiyu walked side by side with the mayor and sat in a car with the examiner Zhou Zhengsheng and the mayor Liu Chengwei. This scene was not deliberately concealed. The students looked at where Su Jiyu was going with envy. This was completely in the eyes of the big shots. Sugu's life has been completely changed through this exam. These people also understand that this is what Su Jiyu deserves. No one cared when he came, but when he returned, he locked in the provincial champion. How many people can do it? Sugu stepped into the troop transport vehicle where the mayor and examiner were sitting. The scene inside made him raise his eyebrows slightly. The interior of this car was much more luxurious than the one he came in. Not only were the chairs made of leather, but there was also an ice cellar inside for refrigeration of drinks. It was like a small mobile RV. After Sugu stepped into the car door, Mayor Liu Chengwei personally opened a bottle of champagne for him and Zhou Zhengsheng. Congratulations to you, classmate Su Jiyu, and congratulations to us in Hangzhou for finally having a top pick after so many years. The three of them drank the champagne in their respective glasses. Sugu looked at them sincerely and asked, "Two seniors, could you please give me some advice on my application for school and my next level of martial arts in the future?" One of these two people is the mayor of a city and has a higher vision than himself. One's martial arts realm is much higher than mine. Taking advantage of my free time now, I will definitely benefit a lot from asking these two people for advice. Lu Chengwei said with a smile. With your grades, you don't have to worry about school matters at all. According to the practice of previous years, top universities will send people to recruit you. At that time, you only need to choose the one you are interested in, the top one in the country. Just go to a top professional school, they will definitely not refuse. After hearing this, Sugu nodded slowly. As for martial arts advice, I won't do it for you. After finishing speaking, Lu Chengwei looked at Zhou Zhengsheng, who was sitting aside with his eyes closed to relax. Seeing this, Sugu also looked at the strong man who took the lead in coming to save him during the exam. Feeling the gazes of the two people, Zhou Zhengsheng opened his eyes, coughed lightly, looked at Sugu, and said calmly. Searching for me realm does require the guidance of skills, but each skill focuses on different directions. Those skills that are suitable for shooters will be greatly reduced if they are re-equipped and practiced, and vice versa. If you also need to consider the compatibility of the skills with your own abilities and the weapons you are good at using, there are even more things to consider. If you can't find a suitable technique in the Seeking Me realm, and you want to learn combat skills from other martial arts professions to make up for the innate deficiencies in your abilities, the effect will be greatly reduced. Sugu nodded slightly, and he really should think carefully about the next step. Then he began to ask about the top martial arts techniques owned by top martial arts universities. This thing can be said to be confidential and cannot be found on the internet. But in Zhou Zhengsheng and Lu Chengwei, they can get answers. It's just that Sugu asked a lot, but he didn't find his favorite technique, which made him frown. After you get to college, you can choose the exercises that suit you. If the improvement of your realm is slowed down due to problems with the exercises, then the gains outweigh the losses. The sound of brakes sounded. We have arrived at classmate Sugu's school. Lu Chengwei said softly, do I need to take you home? Sugu said, no, just stop here. At this moment, he was still thinking about the choice of future exercises, so he took advantage of the opportunity to think about it carefully on his way home. After saying goodbye to the mayor and examiner, Sugu opened the door and got out of the car. Student Sugu, the mayor and I will also be here when you wait for your college entrance banquet. I will give you a gift then. Although it cannot solve your problems in this area, it will help you choose the path to find me. At that time, I was much more calm, Zhou Zhengsheng said while looking at Sugu with a smile, his eyes filled with praise. Thank you, senior. Feeling the goodwill conveyed by the other person's eyes, Sugu earnestly clasped his fists and saluted. But Su Ji-yu didn't know at this moment that his current figure was being seen by his classmates in the literary examination class, Monitor Lu Jingjing and others. These students are all waiting for the head teacher Zhou Li, who wants to invite the teacher to have a teacher appreciation banquet together. Thank you to the teacher for your 3 years of dedication and hard work. But I didn't expect to see such a scene. Seeing Sugu walking out of the personnel carrier, they just wanted to go up and say hello. But looking at the other people in the car who were talking to Sugu, they immediately stood there blankly, not daring to move rashly. The person there must be Mayor Lu. I've seen him several times on TV. Did you see that the soldier sitting next to the principal is wearing a military medal? This is a soldier with military exploits. He seemed to be instructing Sugu just now. This Sugu. How can he be so virtuous? Someone said jealously. Did Sugu take the first place in our school's martial arts exam? Someone murmured about such a possibility. But even if our school ranks first in the martial arts exam, it is impossible for us to take the same car back to school with the mayor. Moreover, Sugu is in our liberal arts class and just applies for the martial arts exam forcibly. How can it be possible that our school ranks first in the martial arts exam? 1. Have you been sleeping for 3 years as a student in our school's martial arts examination class? As soon as this possibility was mentioned, it was immediately met with strong rebuttal. The students in the liberal arts class took the first place in the martial arts exam. This was really too whimsical, and no one soon mentioned it. I think we are overcomplicating things. It's very unusual for Sugu to take the martial arts exam as a liberal arts candidate. The mayor out of curiosity invited him to sit in the car and have a chat. That soldier who had won military honors happened to have a very good temper. Hearing that Sugu was working very hard, he gave him some guidance. After hearing this, everyone nodded silently, feeling that they had discovered the truth. They watched the mayor's car drive away, and when they were about to go up to say hello to Sugu, troop carriers braked and entered the school after the mayor left. Soon, the students of the martial arts exam class of Hangzhou No. 1 middle school got off the troop carriers. At that moment, the students of the liberal arts exam class saw a trace of panic on the face of Su Ji-yu, who had always impressed them as being extremely calm. Su Ji-yu, Su God, you are so awesome. I didn't touch him in the exam room just now. Now let me touch him. Maybe my ranking can go up. Su Ji-yu, you are my male god from today. When I go to college, I will brag to my roommate about you for 3 years. Brother Su Ji-yu, please teach me assassin skills. Why can't I even catch up with your fur after 3 years of learning? Those martial arts exam students who just got off the bus rushed towards Su Ji-yu like brainwashed star-chasing girls. These liberal arts key class students looked at the martial arts students and widened their eyes. Are these martial arts students who are in the same school as them and never look at liberal arts students straight in the eye? Fortunately, there was no major riot in the school. Principal Lu Yuanman stood between the martial arts class students and Su Ji-yu and dispersed the students. Thank you, Principal. Looking at the dispersed crowd, Su Ji-yu breathed a sigh of relief. This is the disadvantage of being famous. Lu Yuanman hugged Su Gu's shoulders intimately and said, Student Su will be an outstanding alumnus who can enter our school's history museum in the future. How can we scare you? Then he took his mobile phone and said to Teacher Zhou Li, who was on standby, Come on, Teacher Zhou, help me take a group photo with your students. We will put this photo in the school history museum later. Su Ji-yu looked at the camera and made a V with a stiff expression. At this moment, the students in the literary exam class who were silently paying attention to this scene felt a little collapsed, and even forgot to call the head teacher Zhou Li, who had appeared to eat. Looking at the kind smile of Principal Lu Yuanman, their faces were messy. Is this still their serious principal? What happened in this year's martial arts exam? Did Su Ji-yu really get the first place in the martial arts exam? The possibility that these people just didn't believe was brought up again, but this time it was not refuted on a large scale. But even if he is the first in the school, it shouldn't be like that. Principal Lu didn't look at the first place in the school in previous years like that. At this moment, these people realized that Principal Lu's eyes were different. If I have to describe it, it would be. The way Principal Lu looked at the student who once won the first place was like a loving elder looking at an excellent child. And now the way he looked at Su Ji-yu was like a filial son who was eager to show his filial piety to his father. As bystanders, they could quickly see the difference between the two. And at this time, the radio station of the entire Hangzhou No. 1 middle school sounded, and Ma Mingji's voice came from it. To celebrate my brother Su Ji-yu, who won the provincial martial arts exam, I booked the Tenglong Hotel, the first in the city. Tomorrow, anyone who wants to eat can come over, and I will pay for all the drinks and meals. Martial arts exam, provincial champion. At this moment, after hearing the voice coming from the radio, the students in the literature exam class felt dizzy. You must be kidding, they murmured. Sugu listened to the sound of the radio, and the expression on his face twitched. Now he is completely famous in the school. But there was nothing to worry about. He had expected this result when he took the college entrance examination. Moreover, Ma Mingji took the initiative to help him take care of the college entrance banquet, which also left a large amount of expenses for the family, which was also a good thing. So after finishing attending to the principal and teacher's affairs, Sugu said to his classmates who had been standing nearby, Remember to come over tomorrow. If you don't know the location, just ask Ma Mingji in the class group. Then he turned around and walked towards home. On the bus home, Sugu was thinking about the exercises and sending messages to his neighbors in the community on his mobile phone. Grandpa Lu, I've been admitted to college. There will be a college entrance banquet tomorrow. You must come over. Okay, as expected of Xiao Ji-yu, you are so awesome. The prayer talisman Grandpa asked for you in the temple seems to be useful. Aunt son, thank you for the chicken soup you made for me before the college entrance examination. I am admitted to college today, and you must come to my entrance banquet. Sugu is so amazing. Even in the liberal arts class, he was able to pass martial arts into university. I really hope my children can be like you. Uncle Lee, Grandma Jung. Sugu sent messages and phone calls to the neighbors who had taken care of him one by one. As an orphan, these are the good people who helped him. Now that my life has changed for the better, I naturally want to invite them to share my happiness. After returning home, Sugu spent a lot of money and ordered a sumptuous and nutritious meal to celebrate. After eating the takeaway, he sat on the futon at home as usual and began to review today's battle with the Star Titan, thinking about whether there was anything he could improve on. The end of the college entrance examination does not mean the end of martial arts. Although martial arts is endless, Sugu enjoys the process of continuous climbing. This feeling of becoming stronger makes him intoxicated. Early the next morning, Sugu took a shower, put on some casual clothes, went to meet the neighbors, and then took the bus to the restaurant Ma Mingji booked. The Tanglong Hotel is located in the city center. It was very inconvenient for people in remote communities like them, but no one complained. Everyone happily gathered around Sugu asking questions. Aunt Sun said, I heard that to be admitted to university, a martial artist must score at least 300 points in the exam. I guess Sugu killed a lot of foreigners in the exam room. Aunt Sun's child Pepe said, Brother Sugu is so powerful. Anyone who kills aliens is a hero of mankind. Grandpa Lu said, You are promising. The children we are watching grow up are promising. Uncle Lee, I guess Sugu can go to a good undergraduate school. That's amazing. Sugu responded to these blessings with a smile, and soon these people arrived at the Tanglong Hotel amid laughter and laughter. Neighbors who have been living in the suburbs for these years swallowed dryly when they looked at the more than 50-story mountain-like building. Then they took another look at the splendidly decorated door. Even the security guard at the door looked tall and powerful, standing motionless in a military posture. Then they looked at the electronic banner scrolling at the hotel entrance, which read, Warmly celebrate the success of Sugu, a student from Hangzhou No. 1 Middle School, in the martial arts examination. Our hotel will only serve one student, Sugu, today. This Tanglong Hotel is so tall. Xiao Ji Yu, although it is a good thing to go to college, you should not spend too much money. Yes, we can just eat whatever we want. Xiao Ji Yu, you have to go to college next, so you can't spend too much money. Sugu looked at it and frowned slightly. He and Ma Mingji have a close relationship. He will take advantage of Ma Mingji when it comes to small amounts of money, but when it comes to big money, they both make a clear distinction. This is also the key to maintaining their friendship. Now Ma Mingji has taken over the entire restaurant, which is too expensive and does not comply with the principle of the two people's interactions. He made a phone call and called Ma Mingji out. Sugu, Brother Su, you, the protagonist, have finally arrived. After Ma Mingji received the call, he immediately trotted over. After understanding Sugu's concerns, he smiled proudly and said, Brother Su, you underestimate your influence now. Spend money. This meal is Hangzhou. All the big bosses in the city are invited for free. They say I'm here to book the show, but actually it's me who takes advantage of you. Free. Sugu was stunned for a moment. Is there such a good thing in the world? Su Ji's performance in the martial arts exam can be said to be shocking. Our city has not seen such students for decades, and you are the first. And the examiner's evaluation of you at that time was that as long as you grow up normally, there is a high probability that you can physically cross the Star Sea. Now these bosses in Hangzhou are rushing to help you organize a college entrance banquet to get to know you. They will definitely take the initiative to take pictures with you later. When you become a strong person, these people can still take photos with you. Use photos to do some publicity. When the time comes, you can take a group photo with peace of mind. The bosses who come here are all brothers who have checked for you in advance and will not do anything extraordinary. Sure enough, as soon as Ma Mingji finished speaking, a group of bosses in suits and leather shoes trotted over with smiles on their face, rushing to get close to Sugutao. Seeing this, Sugu responded with a smile. Although martial arts is the most important thing, he is not a person who hides from the world and needs to do some superficial work. At this moment, the neighbors standing aside immediately became a little restrained when they saw the bosses around Sugu, all wearing neat suits and combing their hair meticulously. At this moment, the uncles and aunts among these neighbors, looking at Sugu who was calmly entertaining the bosses of Hangzhou not far away, felt a little strange for the first time about this child they watched grow up. Isn't Sugu going to take the exam? Why are so many bosses trying to curry favor with him after the college entrance examination? I don't know, do you think our clothes are too casual? Looking at the casual clothes they were wearing, these people felt a little regretful in their hearts that they should wear suits. At this time, an extended black official car stopped at the door of Tenglong Hotel. Mayor Liu Chengwei and examiner Zhou Zhengsheng pushed the door out, and then walked quickly towards Sugu. The bosses who were just pulling Sugu to take a photo gave way. Xiao Su, why are you still standing at the door? Go in quickly. Liu Chengwei patted Sugu on the back as if he was caring for his beloved junior and said, this hotel knows that you, the top scholar, are coming to eat, but they didn't charge a penny and took the initiative to take over 300 tables of banquets. Looking at the scene in front of them and listening to what they said, these neighbors were completely confused. This is, the mayor, why is he here at Xiao Su's graduation banquet? And you see, there is a soldier standing next to the mayor. Judging from his rank, he is an officer. No. Didn't you hear it? What did the mayor just say? Sugu is the top scholar, he is the top scholar. One thing after another made these people stand there in a daze, and for a moment they were a little confused and bewildered. Mr. Mayor, my neighbors and I came here early in the morning, but our home is relatively remote, so it is troublesome to come and go. Sugu said with a smile as he looked at his neighbors. Liu Chengwei stroked his chin, looked at Sugu's neighbors, and recalled the family information about Sugu in his mind. It seemed that they lived a little remote, and Sugu's neighbors were ordinary people. At this moment, they were looked at by the mayor and felt panic. Speaking of which, the area over Sugu's home is going to be developed. Liu Chengwei said to the secretary beside him. The secretary immediately understood and said, yes, there is indeed a plan to build a subway. After hearing this, the neighbors were ecstatic. If a subway can really be built at their doorstep, not only will their travel be much more convenient, but even their own houses can be increased in price. At this moment, they looked at the mayor and Sugu, their faces full of gratitude. They looked at Sugu and felt for the first time that he was not just a child, but also a person who could influence some things. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sugu said seriously. Zhou Zhengsheng saw that Sugu had become successful, but he still did not forget the people who helped him when he was in a humble situation. He nodded slightly in his heart and was more satisfied with the child in front of him. He walked up to Sugu and whispered, after the graduation banquet, I have something to give you. After hearing this, Sugu looked calm and helped several elderly neighbors into the restaurant. At the entrance banquet, not only did the classmates and alumni of Sugu's liberal arts and martial arts classes come, but even martial arts students from other schools who were impressed by Sugu also came to congratulate. There were also many people who didn't know the situation and only knew that there was a free banquet here, and were dragged to join in the fun. But because Ma Mingji said that everyone would be welcome, he let them in. The original 300 tables of banquets reserved by Tenglong Hotel were not enough, and Ma Mingji temporarily added 200 tables to barely seat everyone. For a while, the whole hotel seemed like a 3A tourist attraction in the peak tourist season, with a sea of people and a lot of noise. At this moment, in the chattering noise, those who didn't understand the situation and just came to join in the fun were mixed with ordinary students, and the scene was very spectacular. When the host finally stabilized the scene, those elders and respected people began to walk onto the podium to bless today's protagonist Sugu. First of all, we too would like to thank classmates Sugu on behalf of the school and the class. I believe that many years later, when you become a powerful warrior, many younger students will come to our school for your name. It is an honor for our Hangzhou No. 1 middle school to have a student like you. The school is proud of you. Congratulations to classmates Sugu again, and may you always have a prosperous martial arts career. At first, it was nothing when the neighbors came on stage, until the principal Lu Yuanman and the head teacher Zhou Li came on stage to congratulate, and then those who didn't understand what was going on started a discussion. My goodness, the principal and the head teacher came on stage to give a speech and congratulations. How many points did this student named Suji Yu get in the exam? I'm afraid it's enough to go to those top universities. It's really rare that a principal came to congratulate the students in person. It's true that there are very few students from comprehensive high schools who go to top key universities. No wonder these people are completely crazy. After hearing these words, some people who had experienced that martial arts exam silently held back their laughter. They refrained from telling those who didn't know what happened at the time. Enough to go to the top key universities. On the contrary, with Sugu's performance, the top schools should have begged him to come. However, they did not reveal this matter immediately. Of course, this kind of thing will be interesting only if it is revealed slowly. After the principal and class teacher of Suji Yu School stepped down, Mayor Liu Chengwei, dressed in a well-dressed suit, walked briskly onto the podium. These people looked at Principal Liu Chengwei, whom they had only seen on TV, and their expressions became a little stupid. This is the mayor. How could the mayor appear at a student's entrance banquet? This is too exaggerated. Even if it is a top martial arts school, it shouldn't be like this. You know, many students from top martial arts universities work under the mayor. Is it because the organizer of this entrance banquet is Ma Mingji? His father is the richest man in Hangzhou, so the mayor came to curry favor with him. It has always been the rich who curry favor with the powerful. Have you ever seen a powerful curry favor with the rich? Looking at the mayor on the stage, those who did not know the situation speculated. They could barely understand that the principal came to bless a student in person, but after the mayor came out, it was beyond their understanding. Liu Chengwei cleared his throat and said, "This is really an exciting moment. To celebrate our Hangzhou city, we have an outstanding student like Suji Yu. No matter which martial arts university Suji Yu chooses, his 3-year tuition and other miscellaneous expenses will be paid by Hangzhou City. In addition, I have also applied for a scholarship of 5 million for Suji Yu in accordance with relevant regulations. Please ask Suji Yu to come on stage to receive it." Suji Yu smiled and walked slowly to the stage in front of him to receive the 5 million scholarship in public. Having money is still a happy thing. It seems that his university life does not have to be as tight as in high school. And those who did not know the truth in the audience looked at the figure of Suji Yu and the principal taking a photo, and their expressions on their faces were a little demented. This is the cost of 3 years of martial arts university, and it was all waived at once. This is the first time I have seen such a thing since I grew up. Someone murmured. The cost of training a martial arts master is not comparable to that of a liberal arts university. The cost of using school equipment and nutritious meals is a huge amount. Although the better the school, the more favorable the tuition will be for outstanding students, but it must be a considerable amount. After ordinary students go to college, they even have to apply for student loans, but the principal waved his hand and waived all the fees for Suji Yu. They looked at Suji Yu, who was taking a photo with the mayor, and the mayor was still hugging his shoulders intimately, with envy and jealousy on their faces. What is this Sugu's virtue? I don't think he has 3 heads and 6 arms, but he is treated like this by the mayor. I am really envious. Can't this money be thrown on my head? If there is such a big shot willing to take time to bless and speak at a banquet about me, I would be happy to let me live a little longer. What is wrong with the world today? It's too crazy. Why do I feel that everything is a little unreal? Mayor Liu Chengwei walked down while the people below were whispering and talking constantly. But Suji Yu still stood on the stage, waiting for the last person. Soon Zhou Zhengsheng walked slowly onto the stage. Looking at the soldiers in uniform, everyone subconsciously kept quiet, and even unconsciously straightened their backs. During the Dark Ages, countless military heroes built a flesh and blood wall on the battlefield to protect the civilians who had no protection from the power of the aristocratic families. The ancestors of many families here were saved by the army. The respect and admiration for the soldiers is engraved in the bones of the civilians. Zhou Zhengsheng cleared his throat and continued. During the college entrance examination a few days ago, a staff member of the Ministry of Education made a mistake and mistakenly allowed a general-level alien into the examination room. The situation was extremely critical at the time. It is very likely that the genius of our human race will be killed by the alien race before it grows up. Fortunately, Sugu was there at the time. Not only did he save his classmates who were competing with him in the examination room without any grudges, but he stayed behind alone to cover the rear. And he killed an alien race that was one level higher than himself by his own strength. Killing a general-level alien race will be recorded in the military merit, but because Sugu does not want to go the military route, I applied for this Brave Citizen Medal in the army, and I hereby give it to Sugu. Everyone widened their eyes. They did not expect to see such a scene at a high school student's entrance banquet. This is an officer in the army. He actually awarded a medal to a student who has not yet entered college. What an honor. And what did Sugu do as they just said? Crossing the border to kill the alien race. Isn't this something that only the geniuses of the great families can do? It turns out that we common people can do it too. When the awarding ceremony ended and Zhou Zhengsheng stepped down from the stage, the crowd immediately started to discuss fiercely. And those who had experienced the entire exam and knew what happened had already been choked up. They grabbed those who didn't know what happened and gave them crazy science education. You didn't see the situation at that time. It was so shocking. Sugu crossed the boundary and killed the Star Titan with one sword. I have never been defeated by anyone in my life, except Sugu. Also, Sugu brought 3 weapons to the examination room. We all thought he was here to make trouble, but he could crush all the students present with any weapon. He is really abnormal. Sugu did not use any superpowers during the whole exam. He used highly skilled combat skills to do it. He is really a monster. You should know that our martial arts class has mastered 3 C-level combat skills to a certain extent, which is considered the best among the students. Sugu is awesome, too strong. The principal toasted, the mayor gave a gift, and the officer spoke. The wedding night, when the name is on the list of successful candidates. The proudest moment in life is nothing more than this. Sugu held the wine glass and toasted those who came to bless him one by one. During this period, a very interesting thing happened. The owner of the Wu's martial arts school, the largest martial arts school in the city, came with his son Wu Yi to toast Sugu. Brother Su, I am Wu Yi's father. A few days ago, you, the top scholar, came to our martial arts school to practice martial arts. Originally, this was a great honor for our martial arts school. Who knew that I usually didn't teach my children well, and I was really embarrassed that my kid bumped into you. He pulled Wu Yi, who looked embarrassed, and kept apologizing to Sugu. Then he stuffed the lifetime free VIP card of his martial arts school and some obscure small gifts into Sugu's hands. Sugu thought for a long time, and it took him a long time to remember that he did go to this martial arts school before the college entrance examination and practiced martial arts in the martial arts school. At that time, it seemed that he was indeed educated by someone because of his status as a civil service candidate, otherwise he would have almost forgotten what happened today. Uncle, you are polite. We are all young people with youthful vigor. Sometimes conflicts are inevitable, and I am not a grudge-bearing person. As he said this, he put the red envelope and gold card given by the other party in his pocket. Sugu's face was full of smiles at this moment. Seeing that the other party was willing to reveal this matter, Wu Yi's father was relieved. After sending Sugu away, he began to teach his son Wu Yi a lesson. You really don't give your father peace of mind. You can offend anyone you want. You can offend this year's provincial champion in the martial arts exam. Did you see his posture at the entrance banquet today? The mayor and military officers are here. Can we afford to offend such a person? Wu Yi's face was full of grievances. Who could know this at that time? However, he was also full of regrets in his heart. It turned out that the master was so close to him at that time. If he could get along well, this great god might be willing to guide him during the martial arts exam, and he might be able to go to a key university. Suddenly, he seemed to remember something and said to his father, Dad, something happened when Sugu came to our martial arts school that day. The meat piles were suddenly used up by a group of masters with different methods in a short time. Did you know that? The owner of the martial arts school nodded. The situation at that time was too strange. More than 5,000 meat piles in the house were destroyed by dozens of completely different martial arts professional methods at the same time. And judging from the damage to the meat piles, the level of each profession was extremely high, far exceeding the level of ordinary students, and they all had professional-level combat qualities. So he remembered it very clearly. From the performance of the college entrance examination, the assassins, spears and knives at that time, the wounds were most likely caused by Sugu. But there are dozens of meat piles with different wounds. Dad, don't you think this may also be done by the same person? When saying this, Wu Yi felt his heart pounding. After hearing his guess, his father was stunned for a moment, and then said with a smile, "Son, what are you thinking about? If there is really someone who can master so many completely different martial arts combat professions by himself, I think he is no longer human. He should be a god, yes he should be a god of war." Wu Yi secretly breathed a sigh of relief after hearing what her father said. My father has been running a martial arts gym for so many years, and he always said that this kind of thing is not possible, so it is really impossible. Then he looked at the back of Sugu, who was still lingering at various wine tables, and secretly warned himself again that he must be thinking too much. In the examination room, Sugu used 3 different weapons to demonstrate the peak levels that high school students in 3 different martial arts professions could achieve. This was incredible enough. 3 martial arts professions can crush everyone, how could they still have some strength left and dozens of other weapons hidden away? Wu Yi shook her head and stopped thinking about such outrageous things. Brother, you are really awesome, you are really awesome. Ma Mingji, who was very drunk, put his arms around Sugu's neck and said loudly, "When the wait is over, brother will give you a good thing to celebrate. You go to school. That's really good stuff, you'll love it." After saying that, he fell to the ground unconscious. Sugu shook his head and asked the hotel to open a room for his brother to settle down. No matter how crazy the party is, it will eventually end. The guests gradually left, and Sugu put down the wine glass in his hand. He was also a little drunk at the moment, but he still remained sober with his strong physique. He still remembered that before the banquet started, the examiner Zhou Zhengsheng asked him to go find him after the banquet and have something important for him. After asking the hotel staff and finding out the room where instructor Zhou rested, Sugu walked over. After knocking on the door, Zhou Zhengsheng, who was sitting on a wooden chair, showed a kind smile to Sugu. "Senior Zhou, what do you want from me?" Sugu asked. "Your performance in the exam will give you more than just the useless medal. It's just that there were too many people at the time and it was inconvenient to take out the other thing." As he spoke, Zhou Zhengsheng casually threw a small projection reader to Sugu. Sugu opened the reader and projected a large list of martial arts knowledge that he had never seen or heard of. His eyes widened with disbelief. This is actually a technique that can lead him to the realm of seeking me. This is the Tian Yuan Gong. Zhou Zhengsheng's voice came over calmly. His characteristics are Zhongzheng, peace, and moderation. Although this technique is weak, any martial arts profession can choose this technique for practice. And because of its righteous and peaceful characteristics, in the early stages of the self-seeking realm, if those who practice this technique want to switch to other techniques, there will not be any negative effects. So this is a transitional technique given to some disciples by some martial arts families. This is also a transitional technique that I think is most suitable for people like you who have learned too much in the early stage, learned too many things, and are somewhat uncertain about their future path. Listening to Zhou Zhengsheng's introduction, Sugu's expression became more and more enthusiastic as he looked at this technique. "I wish I could sit down on the floor right now and start practicing." But then the expression on his face became a little struggling, and he looked at Zhou Zhengsheng hesitantly and asked, "Senior Zhou, the military merit of the general-level foreign race I killed was not enough to exchange for martial arts. Even though the technique Zhou Zhengsheng mentioned was from mainland China, it could lead warriors to the next level of martial arts and transform themselves. It would be hard to find outside. Sugu is not from the military system. He does not believe that such good things can be picked up by people outside his system. There are some things that he still needs to ask clearly. You kid is really sharp." Zhou Zhengsheng looked at Sugu with admiration and said, "It did cost me some military merit and even favors for you to obtain this skill, but you don't have to worry, you don't owe me anything." Quote, "At that time, you were trapped in front of the starry sky titan. I was originally going to take the secret medicine that consumes life and temporarily increase my strength to rescue you. But your performance far exceeded my expectations. You were able to kill enemies across borders. I got this skill for you not only to repay the favor of saving me lifespan, but also because you are a genius among us humans. Zhou Zhengsheng looked at Sugu with burning eyes. Rules are dead, people are alive. You can kill enemies across great realms now. In time, you may not be able to become a powerful person who can physically cross the sea of stars. Besides, you come from a clean background and have no trace of those aristocratic families. When you succeed in martial arts, ordinary people will be lucky to have a warrior like you. You deserve some preferential treatment. Hearing what the other party said, Su Jiyu no longer hesitated. After putting away the technique, he solemnly said, "Thank you, senior." After asking some more questions about practice, Zhou Zhengsheng said from behind, "You must master the exercises by heart within 3 days, otherwise the program inside will be automatically destroyed. And it is forbidden to show it to others. This is against federal law." "I see." After Sugu left Zhou Zhengsheng's room, he started to look for the drunk Ma Mingji. At this moment, under the care of the hotel staff, Ma Mingji had sobered up. "Get out, you guys go out first, I have something to tell my brother." After he called the staff out, he took Sugu and said mysteriously, "Do you still remember what I told you to give you a gift to celebrate your promotion to a top university? Guess what I have prepared for you?" Sugu thought for a moment, and since the other party said that he must be interested in that thing, it could only be so. A-level combat skill, or a handy weapon. The situation is too small. Brother Su, your situation is too small. Ma Mingji proudly took out a box of beautifully wrapped gift bags from under the bed and handed it to Sugu, and then said with a proud look on his face, tear it down now." Under Ma Mingji's instructions, Sugu opened the gift box and saw a helmet. The helmet had a rather strange shape, with a bunch of white contacts inside the shell that were glued to the head. The helmet's windshield is a crossed black X, like a strange-shaped sunglasses. Sugu played with the thing for a while, and then the expression on his face gradually became serious. This is the X device. In this era where technology is centuries ahead of previous generations, internet technology is also developing. Before the Dark Ages came, some people had already tried to digitize their consciousness and upload it into a digital life. Digital ghosts from centuries ago still linger on many ancient, encrypted websites that no one has accessed. In the Dark Ages, after many martial arts masters died, in order not to lose their martial arts inheritance and to cultivate more human masters, they also chose to digitize their consciousness. Those strong people either set up programs or silently observed the human world by their own means. Whenever a human genius who meets their requirements appears, they will be given a test of their martial arts inheritance. At that time, countless martial arts inheritances were scattered in a network area that needed to be accessed with one's own consciousness. Countless invincible martial arts wills and powerful abilities stirred up in that virtual area. In the end, the regional network mutated and became completely independent, becoming another world outside of reality that was not governed by any force. Now that area can no longer be called the Internet. It has a new name, the virtual spiritual world. The X device is the basic access device to the virtual spiritual world. Sugu sighed slightly. This was really a gift he couldn't refuse. He had no interest in archaeology of those ghosts floating in the virtual world, nor did he intend to dig up the ancient heritage. After all, he would soon go to the top universities in the current federation, and ordinary martial arts heritage would not be in Sugu's eyes. However, in this virtual spiritual world where consciousness needs to be uploaded to visit, humans have developed a new set of uses in the new century. Through the X device, one can upload one's own consciousness to the martial arts arena area of the virtual spiritual world, where one can compete in matches. When the consciousness body fights in the virtual spiritual world, it can use its full strength without scruples. With the protection of human heroes, human consciousness will not perish here. This kind of arena where one can be free and let go of oneself has attracted 90% of the young masters of the human race to participate. Here, you can often match masters from other regions of the Earth Federation. In theory, if you have enough consecutive wins and high scores, you can also compete with the strong men from other planets in the solar system. It is said that those families that stood at the top of human power before the Dark Ages would also send disciples to this trial. Here you even have the opportunity to compete fairly with the heirs of the top families. How could Sugu, a martial arts fanatic, bear this? There is only one reason why Sugu has not bought this thing yet: this thing is too expensive. A set of X devices is enough to buy a house in Hangzhou. Only a rich man like Ma Mingji would be willing to give this thing as a gift. Brother, don't think that the things I gave are expensive. My family's business has reached the end of the richest man in Hangzhou. In the future, we will need the protection of powerful warriors to do business in other places. This is the unspoken rule of the business circle. We can afford ordinary warriors, but we can't afford warriors to protect our family's expansion in other cities. You can think of this as an investment. After hearing this, Su Jiyu smiled, and he and Ma Mingji didn't have to be as polite as Zhou Zhengsheng. Okay, when I become a martial artist, I will protect you. When I conquer the universe with my martial arts, you will be the richest man in the universe. Okay, I'll wait for that day. The two teenagers smiled at each other, and as usual, they talked foolishly. In the hotel corridor, a camera flashing red light recorded this conversation, and many years later, this video will be spread among the stars. The results of the martial arts exam are released much earlier than those of the literary exam. After all, the scores are released on the same day, and all that needs to be done is to rank these scores. Although it was guessed early on that Sugu's score must have booked the provincial champion in advance, it was not until the day of the announcement that Sugu's name was hung high at the top of the provincial ranking. The relatives and friends around Su Jiyu felt the truth of this matter. Hangzhou No. 1 middle school urgently customized banners and posters, which were hung in the most conspicuous place in the school, wanting to tell everyone in the city that the provincial champion came from their own school. The news media in Hangzhou also put all kinds of exaggerated news headlines that had been prepared long ago on the internet. For a while, the pages of the local news in Hangzhou were filled with, "The boy rises and wins the provincial champion. Under the leadership of a student, the comprehensive high school reverses the martial arts high school," and "The boy Sugu's counterattack rode." Overnight, the whole city of Hangzhou knew that there was a boy like Su Jiyu in their city. Looking at the description in the news, they all widened their eyes in disbelief. Hangzhou's economy is good, but the martial arts trend has been sluggish. Sugu's first place result undoubtedly gave a shot in the arm to the city's depressed martial arts. The whole city gradually entered a festive atmosphere. Have you heard of Su Jiyu? Now everyone in Hangzhou knows him. If anyone slanders our city online and says that there are no martial artists, I will post this name. It's more than 5,000 points higher than the top scorer in previous years. It's really too strong. I will use this name to inspire my children in the future. Your children are still in elementary school, right? It's already getting popular. The name Su Jiyu quickly became the first choice for ice-breaking chats among office workers and ordinary students in Hangzhou. After all, who doesn't know the top scorer now? But in addition to this, there are also many doubts, especially from other cities in the same province. 18,761 points. Are you kidding me? You guys in Hangzhou should be more low-key about the shady dealings. How could someone alone surpass last year's highest score of nearly 5,000 points? I checked the scores. This guy named Su Jiyu scored 10,000 points in the last exam. How dare you show such cheating results? The last question was scored manually by the examiner. Although there are news reports of suspected cheating every year, it is only your city that did it this exaggerated this year. 10,000 points is the highest score in theory. The final kill performance is still subjectively scored. I really don't believe that the student named Su Jiyu didn't bribe the examiner. For a while, doubts about Su Jiyu came from all cities. Some of the students in the same city who took the martial arts exam with Su Jiyu tried to defend Su Jiyu. But on the one hand, they were few in number and their words were not taken seriously. On the other hand, although students watched the live broadcast during the college entrance examination, recording was completely prohibited. There is no evidence, and what these people said is too outrageous, such as, carrying 3 fine steel weapons, you can crush the entire examination room with any one of them. 1 person, 1 sword, cross-border killing enemies, study the civil examination for 3 years, crush a group of martial arts candidates. These outrageous rumors not only failed to help Sugu calm public opinion, but also added fuel to the fire. The debate about the name Sugu has become more and more intense, but Sugu, who is at the center of public opinion, is unaware of it. But even if he knew, he would not care. He has many more important things to do. The minimum realm requirement for entering the virtual spirit world's martial arts arena is the realm of seeking me. Sugu is now at the peak of the self-cultivation realm, and the only thing he needs to enter the next great realm is the guidance of the practice. And the Tianyuan Gong that he just gave Sugu what he needed most, the rope to climb up. Sugu is sitting on the futon at home at this moment, breathing in and out according to the method given in the Tianyuan Gong, running the Jodian and accumulating the power to enter the next realm. A long breath came out of Sugu's mouth, turning into a cloud of white smoke that lingered around his body. At this moment, he seemed like an old immortal in ancient myths and legends, swallowing clouds and spewing mist. Complete one breath, Tianyuan Gong, experience value +1, current state of the technique, entry. Complete one breath, Tianyuan Gong, experience value +1, current state of the technique, entry. Sugu opened his eyes and murmured, the self-cultivation realm is to repair the power of one's own body. And the self-seeking realm is to use the technique to tap into the strange energy called soul power in one's own flesh and blood cells, so as to push people to a higher realm. Now I have mastered the technique by heart, and the next step is to continuously run the Jodian and tap the power contained in the flesh. With the help of my supernatural power, I can break through the realm tomorrow. After sorting out the plan for practice, Sugu closed his eyes again and continued to practice. Without anyone teaching, he perfectly got into the technique in one day. The next day, he could run the Jodian without any guardian and complete the tapping of the soul power contained in the flesh and blood cells. You can break the mirror by yourself within 3 days. If this matter gets out, it will shock a lot of people. If you make a mistake in these 3 steps, you will go crazy and ruin yourself. Many people dare to take this step only after entering the martial arts university and with the help of the teacher. But Sugu actually finished it by himself at home in such a plain way. And while Sugu continued to practice, the outside world's rumors about whether he had cheated in the college entrance examination became more and more intense, as if there was an invisible big hand behind this matter, constantly promoting these things. You are saying that Sugu is innocent and that he achieved this result by himself. What you say is unfounded. Show us the evidence. What is the difference between this kind of behavior that tramples on fairness and what those aristocratic families who monopolize human financial, political, cultural, and martial arts resources do? The college entrance examination can be said to be one of the few avenues for advancement for us civilians, and privileges will never be allowed to be trampled on. We must give us an explanation for this matter. Otherwise, if any top university recruits students like Sugu, it will be a stain that this university cannot wash away. I will be black for the rest of my life. The height of this matter has continued to rise and go astray in a short period of time. From the beginning, he suspected that the examiner was biased in scoring, and now he has pushed Sugu to the side of the privileged class who trampled on the order of the college entrance examination. The growing public sentiment has almost turned into surging waves that are about to swallow people up. At this moment, a conversation is taking place in the admissions office of a top martial arts university. A teacher holding various documents in his hand asked, "Do you know this student Sugu? According to the situation in previous years, we must now start to consider a special recruitment evaluation for him. Is it really because of those netizens saying a few words? Give up a student? It's not as simple as you think. The Ministry of Education has been unhappy for a long time that examiners must be drawn from the army for every martial arts examination, and it is taking advantage of it. There are also some small families who want to influence the college entrance examination. They see their own peaches being picked by people who don't know where they come from. They are now depressed and venting their anger on the student named Sugu. It is estimated that there is such a big unrest among the people now. It's these small families who are behind it. Does this kind of thing have anything to do with us?" The teacher holding the document frowned and said, "There is no evidence that Sugu cheated. Everything is just speculation. I can only blame him for being unlucky enough to do something like this." Someone spread his hands and said, "And I have investigated before. This student's ability is to improve his study concentration. He does not have any combat ability. It is very abstract. So this student who won the provincial top prize must have some merit, and he has this kind of power. Such a student definitely has little potential, and it's not worth offending people for him." Such conversations are taking place in the admissions offices of many top universities, and everyone is watching, waiting for a reliable reply. In a high-rise building that towers into the sky, a young man is waving his fists in a 6-gravity room. A leather sandbag filled with iron sandstone is being swayed back and forth by an iron fist as big as a sandbag. Big beads of sweat slid down from his aggressive face, and his eyes were full of anger. But each punch not only failed to dissipate the flames in his heart, but only added fuel to the fire. A voice came from the Bluetooth headset he was wearing. "Master Jung Lu, what you asked us to do is to spread and promote rumors against the student named Sugu. We have already taken care of it. At this time, the Ministry of Education is also taking the opportunity to launch an attack, putting pressure on the military and questioning the impartiality of the other party as the examiner. At this juncture, no top martial arts university will dare to risk the world's disapproval to recruit the man named Su, an ancient boy. When the time comes, according to the ranking, young master, you will still be the #1 in the province." After hearing this, the anger in Jung Lu's eyes subsided a little. He stopped beating the sandbag back and forth and wiped the sweat from his body with a towel. "What kind of force is behind the name Sugu? We have checked carefully and checked again, and we have determined that Sugu is an orphan. If we step on him, he might not even know who is messing with him." The voice in the Bluetooth said proudly, "So young master, don't worry, what happened this time is not the same. There will be any hidden dangers." Jung Lu nodded with satisfaction, finally showing a long-lost smile on his face. Although the Jung family is a martial arts family with certain social resources, compared with those large families that have set up their own private universities, the Jung family is only a small family. As one of the family's successor candidates, Jung Lu still has to take the college entrance examination and compete with ordinary people. Originally, according to the plan, after I won the first place in the province, my voice in the family would further increase. But because of you Sugu, I can only be the second place in the province now. According to the rules over the years, top universities use completely different special recruitment resources for the first place in the province and the second place in the province. And the special recruitment resources are the key to attracting the heirs of these small families. Thinking of how he had boasted in front of his elders before the college entrance examination, "I will definitely get the first place," Jung Lu felt a surge of anger rising again. His plan was completely ruined because of Sugu's appearance. "I don't care what means you used to get such a high score, but since you messed with me, you must pay the price." At first, he predicted that Sugu could bribe the examiners and get the highest score in the history of the college entrance examination. Maybe there was a group of powerful forces behind him. But since it has been checked and Sugu is an orphan, there is no need to be polite in the next method. Taking advantage of the quarrel between the Ministry of Education and the military ministry, he would step on this one hard and dare to jump on the head of the ant in front of him. Jung Lu threw the torn towel on the ground and threw himself into venting training again. At this moment, in the mayor's office of Hangzhou, Lu Chengwei was very busy because of Sugu's affairs. When rumors spread, he wanted to use the resources at his disposal to help Sugu calm the situation. But just when he wanted to mobilize the human resources that he normally used, he was immediately blocked by all parties. After sitting in this position for so many years, he naturally understood what was going on. This Jung family has devoured so many resources and become a martial arts family. Is this just for you to use to bully civilians? Lu Chengwei cursed fiercely, and then continued to think about whether there were any other ways to help Sugu. At this moment, the intercom phone he put in his pocket rang, which made Lu Chengwei stunned for a moment when he looked at the name on the caller ID. It was actually Zhou Zhengsheng's examiner. He connected the phone, and Zhou Zhengsheng said quickly, "Mayor Lu, help me prepare a press conference. I will personally release the video of the exam at that time and restore Sugu's innocence." After hearing this, Lu Chengwei's mouth opened slightly. "Instructor Zhou, do you really want to do this? You must know that in the examination room, Putting a warrior-level alien into the examination room was a big mistake that had not happened in decades. If Sugu hadn't turned the tide, a very serious college entrance examination accident would have occurred. Everyone present at that time had a tacit understanding not to mention this matter, and no one thought about bringing it out or bringing it up. I just want to think that no big thing happened anyway, so it is better to turn the big thing into a small one. If this matter is revealed, someone from either the Ministry of Education or the military ministry will be held accountable, which will be very offending. HMPH. Zhou Zhengsheng snorted coldly. So what if you offend someone? Are you just going to watch these people keep pouring dirty water on the unicorn that we civilians finally managed to get out of? Education is the last place that should not be influenced by politics. Now some people's behavior has crossed the line. After finishing speaking, Zhou Zhengsheng hung up the phone. After hearing this, Liu Chengwei sighed slightly. Thinking that the other party was also a commoner, and because he didn't want to bow to the noble family, his path to martial arts stopped advancing and retreated, finally ending. The reason why he did this seems easy to understand. When today's events are over, there will be an earthquake, he said softly. Then he picked up the phone and began to contact various departments under him, asking them to start preparing for the press conference. The mayor personally issued instructions and the press conference was held very quickly. And because this matter is related to the hottest topic right now, Sugu, many reporters also swarmed forward with long guns and short cannons. It's just that most of the reporters who came here have taken advantage of the Zheng family. As long as they can find out from this press conference that there is something unreasonable about Sugu's archaeological score, they will definitely exaggerate to smear it. We must put Sugu into a situation of eternal destruction and pave the way for the young master of the Zheng family. They have full confidence in these. Sugu's final test score was 10,000 points, which was the theoretical highest score. And as an area that is manually scored, how can it get such a score without any moisture at all? I can only blame this guy named Sugu for being unlucky and taking something he shouldn't have. He was destined to be brought down to pave the way for the young master of the Zheng family. A camouflage troop carrier stopped outside the press conference. Zhou Zhengsheng stepped out of the car with vigorous steps. The military uniform on his body finally made these carrion-eating flies have some scruples. The messy press conference became quiet. Come down. I am Sugu's examiner, and I gave him 10,000 points. The issue currently being debated in public opinion is simply about whether the score was given too much. Let's just watch the exam video at that time. After finishing speaking, Zhou Zhengsheng turned on the projector he had prepared early in the morning and perfectly reproduced the situation of Sugu's exam at that time. Everyone's pupils shrank sharply after seeing the warrior-level starry sky titan appear. He spoke. This is not an awakening-level alien at all, this is a warrior level. Why are warrior-level aliens appearing in the college entrance examination? This is an extremely serious mistake. How could this happen? There is no way a student can resist a warrior-level alien race. How come we haven't heard of any fatal accidents involving genius students this year? These people were still discussing in whispers just now, but soon they saw Sugu holding a spear and saving the classmates who were taking the exam from the hands of the Star Titan. Then there was a back-and-forth cross-border fight with Titan. When the weapon shattered, outside rescue was isolated, and he was completely in despair. Sugu drew his sword and killed the enemy with one strike. The entire process was perfectly reproduced on the device, and the faces of these people became duller as the video progressed. They held long guns and short cannons in their hands, preparing to take pictures of Sugu's imperfect performance in the exam. After returning home, they will add fuel to the fire and slander them on their respective public accounts. But during the entire press conference, these people didn't take a single photo. This is very rare for reporters who rely on this thing for a living. But how can they find trouble? For a genius who can kill enemies across realms, no matter how high the score he is given in the college entrance examination is too high. Originally, this matter was not a big deal, but there were people behind the scenes who kept adding fuel to the fire and wanted to use this matter to stink and bring down Sugu to achieve their own goals. Zhou Zhengsheng's solemn voice sounded, and a layer of faint blue flames rose from his body. In an instant, the air in the entire venue became solid, everyone's breathing stagnated, and no one dared to take a breath. Soul-shaping realm. How could a strong man who had tapped the soul power contained in his own flesh and blood to the limit and successfully ignited the soul fire appear here? I don't care who he is, but I'm covering Sugu now. If you don't accept it, you can ask your peers to challenge him head on. Don't use such despicable methods again. After finishing speaking, Zhou Zhengsheng's figure disappeared instantly, ending the press conference. Those reporters who were still at the scene suddenly felt lighter, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. These people looked at each other in confusion, looking at the untouched notebook in their hands, and for a moment they didn't know what to write in tonight's manuscript. Chapter 31. In the major media reports the next day, most of them uploaded Sugu's college entrance examination video on their respective accounts. Then, in the form of a statement, I told the matter in detail, without adding any exaggeration or adding my own comments. It is very rare for all media to have a tacit understanding and comment on an event in an extremely fair manner. But if you think about the nature of this matter, you can understand it immediately. If something like a mistake in the college entrance examination almost resulted in an accident, it would be okay if it was just about catching the wind and writing some eye-catching junk news. Now that this matter has been exposed, and the evidence is conclusive, how could these people dare to write nonsense? After you write it down, is this ultimately the responsibility of the military department or the Ministry of Education? If you dare to talk nonsense, do you want to be fooled? After these tongues that controlled public opinion had no way to smear him, the video of the college entrance examination spread quickly on the internet, and Sugu's reputation quickly began to recover. Everyone's eyes widened when they saw the video of Sugu using his own strength to cross the border and kill the enemy. The accounts that were mocking Su Jiu on the internet a day ago have all shut up, and the people in Hangzhou who have been disgusted by this incident for so long are finally relieved. Where are those people you have been calling on the internet before? Call one more. He went to a great level to kill aliens. Can you tell me how many points should be given to students who have done such a feat? There was a conspiracy theory a few days ago, saying that Sugu was sent by a certain family to disrupt the order of the college entrance examination. What happened? He came to help wipe the butt of those idiots who put warrior-level aliens into the examination room. The collision of forces in the video looked dangerous to me as a seeker. If Sugu hadn't killed Titan, something big would have happened. Now that the video has spread, the truth has been revealed. We in Hangzhou deserve to be the provincial champion. Just as people who had previously supported Sugu began to liquidate on the internet, Mayor Lu Chengwei was not idle either. He began to entrust professionals to make videos related to Sugu and publish them on the regional government account. The content of the video is that Sugu was in the third year of high school. Because his abilities did not meet the standards, he was assigned to the literary test class. As an orphan without any support, Sugu has been working hard to pursue martial arts for 3 years, never giving up on himself for a moment. And finally, despite the pressure from all parties in the school, he became the top pick in the martial arts examination. The editing of this video is very simple, nothing fancy and complicated. It is almost like a BGM and a simple text explanation on the college entrance examination video. But as soon as the 3-minute video was released, it broke the record of likes and retweets from the official government account, reaching a full 300,000 likes and 100,000 retweets. It turns out that Sugu's starting point is the same as mine, or even lower. Looking at the video, someone murmured, "The rise of the common people is the most resonant and moving thing for individuals who are also ordinary people." When watching the BGM, Sugu seemed to break through all odds and split the Star Titan in half with one knife. Some people even shed tears of excitement. It doesn't work anymore, it started burning. After watching this video, I put on the gravity bracelet again. Please take a screenshot. The last sword shot by Sugu to kill the Titan in the video is so cool. I want to keep it as a screensaver to inspire myself. Same request. I declare that Sugu is the spiritual nitrogen pump for my practice during this period. Does anyone know if Sugu has a girlfriend? I want to compete. Leave women alone. Women will affect the speed at which men can kill aliens. ... At the same time, the admissions offices of those top universities were also busy because of Sugu's video. They were not that interested in those passionate videos about the rise of civilians, but they watched the original college entrance examination video repeatedly, and even used 32 times slow playback to analyze Sugu's moves. You see, this young man's skill with a spear actually blocked a titan with such a low-quality weapon. I feel that his potential as a spear warrior is only one A-level combat skill compared to the mad fighting with a knife. If with A-level combat skills at his side, he might be able to penetrate the titan directly with a gun. Have you not noticed his terrifying proficiency in those combat skills? The A-level combat skills used to kill titans must have a mastery level of proficiency. And the other B-level and C-level combat skills used in battle, most of them have reached the mastery level. How did he do it? Quote, I asked a friend who works in Hangzhou, and it is now being circulated that Sugu used 3 different weapons during the college entrance examination. His attainments in the assassin's way were also ridiculously high, and he was not like a high school student at all. Quote, how could a high school student become so proficient in using 3 completely different weapons in 3 years? Someone murmured. Many seniors are not as proficient in combat skills as him. At this moment, the issue of Sugu's superpower is no longer important. The most important thing for a warrior is combat ability. When you can crush other people at will, who cares what your superpower is? Hurry up and recruit people. Use S-level. No, make an exception for this student. Use SSS level resources to carry out special recruitment on him. Someone suddenly shouted. That's right. Now hurry up and go to Hangzhou to conduct special recruitment for Sugu. We must let him enter our school. I heard that people from Star Martial Arts University have already made some moves. Those fools are so fast. Instantly, the admissions offices of all top universities swarmed in. Zheng family. Zheng Lu looked at the news of the past 2 days, and the more he read, the more upset he became. He smashed the projection screen in his hand. Waste. They are all a bunch of waste. They took my money, but they did things like this. Then, his eyes became more sinister. Sugu, right. You'd better pray that your university and mine are not in the same school. ... At this moment, Sugu has been in seclusion at home for 3 days. He sat upright on the futon, and although he didn't make any movements, he seemed to feel the mighty power in his relaxed muscles. Sugu guided the Tianyuan gong to run through his body, tapping the mysterious soul power contained in the blood and flesh cells. Suddenly, he opened his eyes abruptly, and a powerful force burst out from his body, directly tearing the black martial arts uniform he was wearing. The weapons hanging on the weapon rack in his house moved without wind, as if they were cheering. Sugu took a deep breath, exhaled slowly, and stood up from the futon. At this moment, he had entered the realm of seeking me. Is this the realm of seeking me? Sugu felt the surging power in his body. Although there are a lot of public research reports on this realm on the internet, only when you really have soul power and enter this realm can you understand some things. At this moment, he seemed to be able to stand from a broader perspective and re-examine the word, martial arts. Human soul power is not like the water in the faucet, which will flow out at a constant speed as long as it is turned on. Its output frequency and intensity are more like an electrocardiogram, with peaks and valleys. This kind of power output fluctuation will change according to different martial arts professions, different skills, different people, and even different weapons in hand. The most typical example is the most common professions. The fluctuation of the warrior is the most balanced, and his soul power output is generally the most stable. The assassin is the most changeable. His fluctuation image may be like a caterpillar crawling on the ground in the last second, and the next second it sprang up like a ferocious cobra. Quote, most long-range fighters need to stack their soul power on weapons at a high frequency to deal high damage, so the frequency of peaks and troughs in the fluctuation graph is the highest. The peak of the soul power fluctuation of heavy armor is generally the highest among the major professions. But at the same time, the output fluctuation of this profession will not change too much, and there are few places for flexibility. Sugu said while simulating the soul power fluctuation methods of several major professions with the Tianyuan gong he mastered. Each profession was simulated in his hands. In addition to the strong plasticity of Tianyuan gong, the more important thing is that Sugu has accumulated a lot of experience over the years, which makes him familiar with all professions. The skill determines the output limit of the warrior, just like the weapons held by ordinary people. It is difficult to beat a gun with a knife. And this, Tianyuan Gong, can be used by any profession, but it is just so in any profession. It is more like an enlightenment skill to help people further understand the attributes of the profession. No wonder this thing is from the mainland and is called a transitional skill. Su Ji said calmly. Then he felt a little headache. Climbing the road of martial arts with this skill in hand, compared with the top skills, is like the difference between climbing a ladder and riding a rocket. Tianyuan Gong can't meet Sugu's needs anyway, and the skill must be changed. But if you change to other skills, the road of martial arts you take must be completely determined. But what Su Ji knows is both refined and miscellaneous. If you choose other skills, some things are destined to be abandoned. He really doesn't know what to choose. Forget it, I don't want to think about it. According to the previous agreement, when I break through the barrier, I will go to the virtual spirit world with Ma Mingji. Su Ji held the X device, his eyes full of heat. Having just broken through, he was eager to find someone to challenge and verify what he had learned. The martial arts arena in the virtual spirit world can use consciousness to fight without limit, which perfectly meets Sugu's needs. When the call was connected, Ma Mingji sprayed out the water he was drinking after learning that Su Ji had entered the Zhongwo realm. You broke through in 3 days. Su Ji, are you the illegitimate child of some Xiaoyao realm master who stayed in our Hangzhou? I have never heard of a breakthrough speed like you in my life. Stop talking nonsense, register an account quickly, we agreed to explore the virtual spirit world together. I have already taken a walk in the spirit world, you are too slow. You son of a fool, didn't we agree to go together? Who told you to be so slow? I'm logged in, waiting for you in the spirit world, register quickly. After Su Ji hung up the phone, he quickly found a place at home and sat down, and then put the X device on his head. When all the biological information was collected and it was confirmed that the current user was human, Su Ji felt a black screen in front of his eyes, and everything in his home disappeared. Then Su Ji felt his body lighten, and he didn't know when the X device on his head had been taken off, and he stood up. At this moment, he was floating in the center of a black cube space with white on top and white on the bottom. This floating feeling seemed to be in a gravity-free universe. Su Ji tried to move his body casually, and there was no difference from usual, and he didn't notice any abnormalities. Even the exercises could run as usual. Is this the state of consciousness? There is a legendary feeling of soul leaving the body, but it is a little different. At this time, a voice seemed to come from the outside of the black and white space. You are using a brand new device to enter the virtual spirit world. Now there are some basic questions that you need to set up yourself. Then, a light screen flashing with blue light slowly unfolded in front of Su Ji. Do you want to hide your appearance? Without hesitation, Su Ji immediately chose, yes. As long as you have an X device, you can log into the virtual spirit world. There are too many people here. He doesn't want to expose his true appearance and affect his personal life. The light screen quickly turned into a mirror, and a poker face with no characteristics was automatically generated on Sugu's face. Please decide your name in the virtual spirit world. The mirror turned into an input bar again. Su Ji thought about it and wrote 4 words in the input bar. Almighty Martial God. When he confirmed this ID again, the black and white cube space dissipated, gravity was restored, and Su Ji fell to the ground again. A brand new world appeared before his eyes. Beside the Gothic buildings, there are Chinese temples, and next to the fantasy buildings of the other world, there are modern high-rise buildings that reach the sky. People of different skin colors are emerging on the strange streets. They wear various costumes and have different beliefs. Asians, Americans, Earthlings, Moon people, and Martians are constantly intertwined here to form a flow of people. Completely different civilizations are mixed here, forming a different kind of human fireworks that cannot appear in reality. This is the virtual spirit world. Although the scenery is amazing, Su Ji really has no intention to appreciate it. He came here for the martial arts dojo. After adding Ma Mingji's ID, Universe Tyrant, as a friend, the two shared the location and soon found each other. Ma Mingji looked at Sugu's ID and complained speechlessly, Almighty Martial God. You dare to give this name. You will be beaten for being so arrogant. It doesn't matter. I came here to fight. Sugu said excitedly. The identity of the virtual spirit world was given by himself, and such an arrogant name can also attract hatred by itself. Sugu likes it very much. Okay, I know you're obsessed with martial arts. Let's go to the martial arts arena right away. The martial arts arena is in the operating interface of the virtual spirit world. Just click and you can enter directly. The two figures disappeared in an instant. The people around seemed to be accustomed to such scenes. They all dealt with their own things without raising their eyelids. Sugu and Ma Mingji appeared at the entrance of a huge open-air arena. Brother, come on, I'll cheer you on the stands. After saying this, Ma Mingji ran to the audience stand. He is a businessman, not a martial artist. If it weren't for Sugu, he might never come to this martial arts arena in his life. Sugu was walking towards the arena. The moment he stepped into the arena, free matching began. Next, he will randomly match opponents with the corresponding winning streak. Brother Su, no one will watch our cannon fodder battles. It's hard for you to match decent opponents before you win streak. Don't be nervous and just play casually. Ma Mingji said loudly in the audience. Anyway, under the protection of the heroes of the virtual spirit world, the consciousness will not die, so the competition in the martial arts arena is often a life and death battle. Watching the death battle between warriors is a fatal attraction for ordinary people. Cannon fodder, brave, elite, and hall. This level that divides the strong in the martial arts arena will attract more people to watch at the same time with each advancement. The duel between the brave level will attract tens of thousands of people to watch online at the same time, and the subsequent video playback volume can easily reach 100,000. If you are lucky, a high-level duel can be played to millions of views. If it is the elite level, the number of viewers can easily fill this open-air arena, and there will be a large number of viewers watching the live broadcast. If you meet a popular player, there will even be a professional commentator to provide on-site commentary. As for the hall, this level generally knows each other and rarely fights. Even if they fight, it will generally be set as a private battlefield and will not be open to the public. Sugu is a newcomer, so he is naturally a cannon fodder. He has been matched for so long, and there is only one spectator, Ma Mingji, on the viewing platform of Norda. This is very telling. On the platform of the martial arts arena, no one cares about him and his ID. But these Sugu don't matter, as long as the opponent is decent. Soon, the match is completed. The opponent is here. A frivolous man with a coxcomb and a lot of sequins sewn on his martial arts uniform. He appeared on the ring with a posture of Superman. The sequins on his body seemed to have a special effect of shining under the light source. And the moment he entered the arena, the stands of the martial arts arena began to pour into the flow of people, and people sat down next to Ma Mingji one after another. The entire arena, in an instant, has tens of thousands more people. These people naturally can't come for Sugu, who is making his first appearance, so they can only come to watch his opponents fight. Ma Mingji opened his mouth wide, and he could attract tens of thousands of people to watch as soon as he appeared. This man with an exaggerated appearance and ID called Flirtatious Assassin, is he a master? No way, Suju is so unlucky for the first time. Ma Mingji murmured. My dear family, I miss you so much. Do you miss me? Moi. After the coxcomb-headed man with the ID of Coquettish Assassin entered the venue, he ignored Sugu at all. Instead, he shouted loudly in the direction of the audience, speaking while making extremely enchanting body movements. To this, the audience at the scene responded quickly. Go away, you faggot. Isn't that disgusting? You haven't been beaten to death offline yet, Sao Sai. How many people have already said they are coming to testify against you? Holy shit, this pervert just blew a kiss in my direction. I feel like I won't be able to eat in the next few days. Seeing the intimate interaction between the combatants participating in the battle and the audience in the auditorium, Ma Mingji was stunned. Who is this? Seeing his confused expression, the people next to him gave him some information. This coquettish assassin is a self-media anchor. After fighting in the virtual spiritual realm, he will record his actions into videos and make a living from the views. We can be considered his fans. After hearing this, Ma Mingji was stunned for a moment, his face twitched and he said. Do warriors still do this? Not everyone can become a powerful warrior who can ignite the soul fire. It's not like a small person can make money and eat. The man then said to him, "Don't look at this guy like this. He has reached the level of a brave man before. But later he got older and was forced to retire. Otherwise, the idea of coquettish assassin would not be able to accumulate so much fan. Now, in order to be able to perform attractive and cool moves in every battle, every time he fights, he will choose the opponent. When he encounters a strong person, he will immediately admit defeat and only fight against those weaker than himself. So although he has good strength, his record in the cannon fodder level is a mess. He can often match the novices who have just entered the martial arts dojo. He can be regarded as a relatively famous newcomer killer." Ma Mingji saw that the man on the field had no intention of admitting defeat directly, and said angrily, "What, he thinks he can handle his opponent this time?" The people around him said with a smile, "Didn't you see that almighty martial god is still studying the weapon selection system of the martial arts dojo? At first glance, he looks like a newcomer who has just registered an account. He will be in trouble." Ma Mingji focused his attention on the arena again. At this moment, Sugu was lowering his head and looking at the rows of weapons that appeared on the light screen. In the martial arts dojo, a variety of weapons that actually exist in reality can be generated for free for people to choose and use. This is also the reason why this place has become a sacred place for young human warriors to communicate and collide. At this moment, Sugu looked at the weapons on the light screen, his eyes extremely intense. A man's love for such destructive weapons is engraved in his genes, and this is especially true for Sugu. The Dragon Reline suspended laser cannon is a heavy cannon that can only be used by long-range warriors with heavy armor. The power of that shot, tisk tisk, a real man's choice. A dagger made from the teeth of a warrior-level poisonous howling Japanese snake, snake's bite, a favorite of assassins with powerful venom. The precious weapon of the soldiers in the army is a black gold sword of different blood forged from the flesh and blood of aliens in the starry sky. All kinds of rare weapons that can only be seen in the news are actually free for people to choose and use. Sugu feels like Grandma Lu entering the Grand View Garden. In high school, he used the cheapest training weapons that could not hurt anyone for self-training. It wasn't until the martial arts exam that he was willing to go to the martial arts gym for training and use a black gold weapon to chop up human steaks. This was because Ma Mingji was flattering. Is it because Sugu is not greedy for these powerful weapons? No, simply because he is poor. I finally have the opportunity to fight with these weapons, which one should I choose? Sugu looked confused, and his appearance made Ma Mingji, who had been watching, couldn't help but hold his forehead. "Brother, you look like you are going to the supermarket and you are confused whether to buy something you like or not. Why? You actually turned on the long-range weapon to look at it. Brother, you are a warrior. Based on your performance in the college entrance examination, you can just choose a knife and cut the opponent. This almighty martial god is going to be in trouble." The coquettish assassin's self-media has not been updated for a week. He is frantically looking for materials. He finally met a stupid young man, and he cannot let it go easily. Do you remember that coquettish assassin had a video with over 600,000 views last year? He could have finished the opponent a long time ago, but he had to make crazy kites to discuss the opponent. He showed off his skills by using a dagger without hurting the opponent. Cut out a dozen little love hearts on the opponent's uniform. I remember that at the end of the video, the long-range warrior was so disgusted that he swallowed a gun and committed suicide on the spot. Who do you think would be worse, this almighty martial god or the long-range warrior that day? Come on, let's open the market. Ma Mingji's face twitched when he heard these people arranging his brother's words. He looked at Sugu on the court and without any hesitation, he stood up and shouted, "Come on, almighty martial god, kill this pervert." Although he and Sugu always quarreled, at this time when they agreed to communicate with each other, they insisted on supporting each other as brothers. At this moment, Ma Mingji became the center of attention in the audience. Some people secretly covered their mouths and smiled at him. The coquettish assassin acted a bit abstractly, but he was also really powerful. The only fan of this almighty god of war is going to be heartbroken today. Su Ji sighed slightly at this time. With so many weapons, it was really difficult to choose. Fortunately, when he was browsing the weapon page, he found a good thing. At the bottom of the weapon selection page, there was a random weapon button, and Sugu pressed it. The weapon selection screen in front of him began to change, and rows of 3D pictures of weapons appeared and arranged to form a turntable. Then the turntable began to rotate, and the speed became faster and faster, turning into an afterimage. Random weapons. The whole body of the coquettish assassin was obviously stiff. He stopped interacting with his fans and looked in the direction of Sugu with a strange face. Random weapons are a powerful weapon for pretending and provoking in the martial arts dojo. The meaning is very simple. Even if I don't use my most convenient weapon, I can let the system randomly give me something and I can blow you up. But most people who use this thing will also frame a range for random weapons, and then let the system randomly. Otherwise, the following situation is very likely to occur. The weapons of the ranged warrior and the melee warrior are exchanged, and there are 2 more clowns. The system gave the heavy armor a dagger. What can the heavy armor guy do? Use the dagger to see if you can scratch your back. Give the assassin a heavy armor shield. Is it to let the assassin use the heavy armor shield as a coffin board? The almighty martial god in front of him is doing this kind of thing, without adding professional restrictions to a super large range of random weapons. I can actually see a fool using this in my lifetime. Today is really an eye-opener. The coquettish assassin has met an equal opponent. At least in the abstract level, these 2 people are almost the same. Where is the fan of the almighty martial god who just shouted? Do you know that your idol is so coquettish? In addition to a group of people shouting excitedly at Sugu, there are also people whistling at Ma Mingji. Ma Mingji is still in the same posture as before to cheer for Sugu, but after seeing Sugu's actions, he feels a congestion of blood pushing up from his lungs. Good. I just stood up to you in front of tens of thousands of people. You are so arrogant, right? He greeted Sugu's ancestors over and over again in his heart, and at the same time shouted in his heart, "Give me a long sword, a gun, or even a pair of daggers." Having witnessed Sugu's performance in the college entrance examination, Ma Mingji believed that he could kill the pervert on the opposite side with any of the 3 weapons. The rotation of the weapon disc gradually stopped, and finally stopped on a thick shield that looked like a wall. Defensive heavy armor classic weapon, iron wall shield. The shield, which was 2 meters long and as thick as a person's head, turned into reality from the 3D phantom of the weapon selection interface and appeared in front of Sugu. Bang! The shield fell heavily to the ground, and the ground of the entire arena trembled slightly. Ma Mingji's little heart also trembled, and he collapsed in the audience with no hope in his life. Good guy. Sugu's flexibility as an assassin and his destructive power as a warrior were blocked by this heavy shield with max defense. How can he fight with Jiba? Or I'd better withdraw first. Anyway, it's embarrassing. It's better to let Sugu embarrass himself than to embarrass both of us. Ma Mingji clicked the exit button of the virtual spirit world, and his expression was uncertain. At the same time, the fans of flirtatious assassin around him cheered. It's Sao Assassin's favorite heavy armor. I can't wait to watch the video tonight. This guy is really a top-notch player that I can't meet for decades. Sao Assassin, kill slowly, we have to watch slowly. Generally, heavy armor is much less flexible than assassins. If the assassin plays well enough in a head-on collision, he can play with the opponent at will. And Sugu's weapon is a heavy shield mainly for defense, which is a target for beating. This is the type of opponent that Feng Sao Assassin likes most. The coquettish assassin smiled slightly and directly chose his favorite dagger, the Mercury blade. The dagger flashing with silver light was very suitable for his martial arts uniform with sequins sewn on it. Choose the battlefield, brother, I'll let you choose. This is another function of the martial arts arena, which can simulate various environments experienced by humans. If you choose a suitable environment, those warriors who use superpowers as their main means of combat can exert abilities beyond the past. If the environment is not suitable, the power will be greatly reduced. For example, if you put a flame superpower and a wind and snow superpower in the ice and snow apocalypse battlefield, the strength of both sides will definitely be different from their usual performance. Choose a narrow terrain. We still have a chance to fight in a narrow terrain. Ma Mingji looked at the other party who took the initiative to give the opportunity to choose the environment to himself, and excitedly revived with full blood, shouting at Su Ji-yu. And Su Ji-yu in the arena frowned slightly, which was the most annoying multiple-choice question. Is it necessary to care about battlefields? What qualifications do warriors have to choose battlefields? Su Ji-yu directly clicked on the random battlefield. Looking at Sugu's choice, the coquettish assassin narrowed his eyes slightly. How much the person in front of him looked down on him. He was a little careless in his actions, but he had also won the brave stage. Your idol is really unique. Even the other fans in the audience who had been amusing the coquettish assassin said to Ma Mingji speechlessly. He was so arrogant when he came to the fighting arena for the first time, like a fool. It was his due to meet the Sao assassin. Ma Mingji's eyes were wide open at this moment, and he looked at Su Ji-yu with gritted teeth. If he could not beat him, he really wanted to replace the Sao assassin standing on the field and chew up the almighty god of war. But even so, he still prayed silently that the system could give him a place to restrict the assassin and suitable for heavy armor. Soon, the venue was selected. The ghost cave in the underworld. The narrow, dark, and complex cave terrain. Every once in a while there would be a shrill cry, as if the ghosts with grievances were howling here. Ma Mingji was paralyzed, listening to the introduction. Isn't this the assassin's home court? The battlefield was selected, and the environment where Sugu and the coquettish assassin were located, like the Colosseum in ancient Rome, began to change. The sunlight was blocked by the cold and damp rock walls, and the gray floor tiles underfoot turned into black moss-covered rocky ground, with groundwater seeping out between the rocks. Countless stalactite pillars fell from the sky, densely packed into a maze. One after another, strange wind sounds were blowing in this area, making sounds like the wails of evil ghosts. Sugu and the coquettish assassin stood on both sides of the ghost cave in the underworld, confronting each other. Sugu had already picked up the iron wall shield, and his effortless gesture was amazing. But the width of the shield is already wider than the gaps between many stone pillars in the terrain. There is no doubt that when fighting here, the flexibility of heavy equipment, which is already slow, will be further restricted. And this complex terrain is a paradise for assassins with changeable souls. Let heavy weapons and assassins fight in such a ghost place. How can we fight? Someone said doubtfully. Who told the all-powerful god of war on the opposite side to have to show off? The assassin gave the opponent the choice of the battlefield, and he also came to set up a random battlefield. Who can he blame now? There will be no limit to how he will be stabbed in this environment. Kite, there's no place for him to cry. Someone shrugged helplessly and said. And I think he got the wrong ID. Almighty god of war, almighty fool. Originally, there is a lack of material for pricks. This guy wants to provoke someone by poking his nose and face. I think someone is going to be in bad luck today. The chatter in the audience made Ma Mingji sweat. He looked at Sugu on the court with a nervous expression on his face. If you can't help it, just throw away the shield. Playing with bare hands is better than carrying this cumbersome shield. At least the loss won't be too ugly. Ma Mingji said secretly in his heart. Holding that 2-meter-high heavy shield, in this dark and small environment, it is simply a living target for assassins. It affects the performance too much. The environment has been transformed and the life and death battle has begun. Sugu blocked the indestructible shield in front of him. He made the classic defensive move of heavy armor, but the huge shield blocked his view, making it all look a bit funny. The title of tonight's video is, Shocked. Sao Thorn actually did such an indescribable thing to the god of war. The coquettish assassin turned the dagger and said to Sugu with a smile. Then, his figure disappeared. Step, step, step. In the cave, his footsteps could be heard from all directions at the same time, but his sound could only be heard but his shape could not be seen. No matter which direction, the coquettish assassin could not be seen. The steps of AC level assassin, the shadowless step. And the proficiency is extremely high. Bump. The mercury blade collided with the iron wall shield, and a string of sparks flew everywhere. I actually managed to defend myself. It seems that you are an experienced old heavy equipment. The coquettish assassin praised as he saw his attack coming from the blind spot was blocked by the other party. Unfortunately, even if you are extremely lucky and the system gives you the martial arts weapon you are best at, the environment is not on your side. If you change to a more open environment, you might really be a threat to me, but here, you are just a target for me. At this point, Sugu was preparing to defend and counterattack, but the coquettish assassin stepped on the heavy shield and flew away instead. Then he used the shadowless step to cover his body, attacked again, and repeated the cycle. The mercury blade kept scratching on the iron wall shield, causing sparks to fly all over the shield. Look, brother martial god is suppressed and can't move now. This is not only because of the thorns, but also because of the surrounding stone pillars. If you move randomly and let the stone pillar get stuck in the position of the heavy shield, even if there is a slight flaw, the souththorn will definitely seal the throat with a knife. Quote. This is now Spurs' favorite attacking rhythm. From the beginning to the end, the offensive initiative will always be in Spurs' hands. He will slowly disgust and consume his opponent to death. This all-powerful god of war is now a fleshy pile with thicker health. Quote. The old audience members in the audience said calmly, being familiar with the coquettish assassin routine. After Ma Mingji heard this, his hands sweated nervously. However, he was also a little strange in his heart. What Sugu showed in the martial arts test was that his martial arts profession was not a warrior or an assassin. How come the reloaded weapon was so smooth in his hands? At least the coquettish assassin has always had the initiative to attack, but he just can't take advantage of the almighty martial god. At this moment, the almighty martial god, who had been standing still and adapting to all changes with his unchanging attitude, suddenly moved. He took a step laterally and wanted to swing the giant shield in his hand forward to the right. The coquettish assassin who was just about to attack paused slightly. The almighty martial god's movement this time happened to block his inevitable retreat after the next attack. If this attack still fails to work, the almighty martial god may catch the flaw. Is this a coincidence? Regardless of whether it was a coincidence or not, it didn't matter. Anyway, the rhythm of the attack was in my hands. At worst, I gave up this attack and looked for other opportunities. The coquettish martial god began to retreat, but at this time the almighty martial god moved again. He still only moved a small step, but the position he was stuck in made the coquettish assassin very uncomfortable and passive. The coquettish assassin vaguely sensed that something was wrong, and he began to move quickly, trying to pull away. The rhythm of his steps changed rapidly. He no longer used the shadowless step, a movement technique, but used several assassin steps that staggered back and forth. All of a sudden, the assassin's disruptive footsteps kept ringing like falling raindrops throughout the ghost cave in the underworld. Compared to the coquettish assassin's weird movements, the almighty martial god is much calmer. He moves very slowly. But every step he takes, he will definitely get stuck in the most disgusting position of the coquettish assassin at the time. Every time he moves, the final result is that the opponent's space is further squeezed. While trying to break through with physical skills again and again, the coquettish assassin accidentally glanced at the almighty martial god behind the iron wall shield. There was no suppression of the opponent's excitement and joy, there was only peace in those eyes. Without any emotion, extremely quiet, but as if he had already seen through everything. Am I being completely seen through by a heavy loader? Cold sweat began to form on the coquettish assassin's face. The heavy shield that seemed so cumbersome to him just now was slowly but firmly crushing towards him. The 2-meter-high heavy shield brought a terrifying sense of oppression, which made him almost unable to breathe. Is this really a cannon fodder player who has just entered the martial arts dojo? Why do I feel like Cao Sai is being suppressed? Someone in the audience suddenly murmured. These people can't understand those delicate paces, but from a god's perspective, looking at the overall situation, they can easily find that the frequency of the coquettish assassin's attacks has been decreasing since the beginning. Moreover, the assassin's footsteps, which seemed to be everywhere at first, are now restricted to one place. Don't talk nonsense. How can Cao Sai overturn when he attacks a heavy defensive weapon? A senior fan said, but his tone was no longer the playful and calm tone at the beginning, and became a little nervous. Su, almighty martial god, come on. Fight him to death. I have always believed in you. Ma Mingji, who had been sitting slumped in the audience with a look of despair, saw the situation on the battlefield and was resurrected with full health. Now is the time to show off, which he is best at. I really don't believe it anymore. The coquettish assassin gritted his teeth and rushed towards Sugu. Continuing to be suppressed by the opponent is a slow death. Maybe the opponent is talented defensively, but not aggressive. Maybe I can break through if I pay a little price. Boom. When the assassin with the most changeable soul power lost the advantage of preemptive strikes and sneak attacks, he was forced to compete head-on with the heavy equipment with the highest peak soul power output. The outcome is already determined. Sugu swatted the coquettish assassin away like a fly. After breaking 3 stone pillars in a row, his body was imprinted on the wall at the edge of the battlefield before he could stop. The coquettish assassin slipped from the wall and vomited a large mouthful of blood. Silence. The entire audience of coquettish assassin fans fell into deathly silence. A newcomer who had just arrived at the martial arts dojo was beaten like a cannon fodder. It was the first time for them to see a coquettish assassin turn over a car like this. The almighty god of war, awesome. At this time, Ma Mingji's hoarse voice sounded again. Although there will be a vacuum layer between the arena and the auditorium for sound insulation, it is impossible for Sugu to hear his shouts. But at this time, I want to hit those people who look down on their brothers during the fight hard in the face. In the Netherland Ghost Cave Arena, Sugu was still slowly approaching the coquettish assassin with a heavy shield. At this moment, the offensive and defensive momentum of the two sides was completely reversed. The coquettish assassin's position had been suppressed in a small corner of the arena, and he could only force a head-on collision with Sugu. As an assassin, I have lost now. But now, I am not defeated yet. The coquettish assassin gritted his teeth and stood up. He didn't know why, but thinking about the other party's calm eyes, his desire to win as a warrior was aroused for a long time. Sea-level supernatural power, breeze protection. A trace of cyan wind lingered in front of him, further increasing the speed of the coquettish assassin. Then there is this combat skill. After studying it day and night, he has reached the level of perfect mastery. Sea-level combat skill Feng Wu Slash. It's the move that Cao Sai used to reach the brave level. An old fan exclaimed when he saw the coquettish assassin's moves. The faces of these people turned from nervous to relieved. Back when the coquettish assassin was still working hard in the brave division, he was once forced into this situation by a seasoned heavy armorer. But at that time, he used this move to cut the heavily armored soldier into pieces in a head-on confrontation. A powerful assassin knows not only sneak attacks, but also high explosive attacks at the expense of everything in desperate situations. Blessed by supernatural powers, the coquettish assassin seemed to be wrapped in cyan armor at this moment. Sugu stopped advancing at this moment and looked at the other party with interest. Supernatural combat skills. Blue Dragon Wind Dance Slash. The coquettish assassin slashed towards Su Gufeng again. The two collided, and the raging slashes produced dazzling flames on the thick shields. The coquettish assassin collided with Sugu, and countless sparks burst out. The place where the two collided turned into a dazzling light that briefly deprived the audience of the auditorium from sight. The audience's eyes have not yet adapted to the dazzling light. The results of the martial arts dojo have come out. Winner, Almighty God of War. The sound of machinery echoed throughout the arena auditorium. The trick of being a prick is broken by the newcomer in the cannon fodder section in one glance. Upon hearing this, an old fan of the coquettish assassin stood up and said in disbelief. It's not like no one has cracked this trick of the coquettish assassin. But that was after the brave Duan won 3 games in a row and was specially studied to fight, and then it was cracked. What the coquettish assassin is fighting now is not the brave stage, this is the cannon fodder stage. Moreover, the opponent is still a newcomer who has just entered the cannon fodder level. Logically speaking, this move should be a special move that will kill him at first sight. How could it be cracked by someone just by looking at it? The light dissipates. These viewers refocus their attention on the live broadcast. The winner has been decided, and there will only be one person standing in the arena, and the loser's consciousness will be automatically cleared out of the virtual spiritual world. The figure standing in the ghost cave of the underworld was holding an exaggerated giant shield in his hand, with a smile on his face, as if he was enjoying and reminiscing about the battle just now. There wasn't even a scratch on his military uniform. From the beginning to the end, the coquettish assassin failed to cause any damage to the almighty martial god, not even with his proud ultimate move. Obviously his height is not considered tall among the top heavy equipment, but this figure is infinitely taller in the eyes of the audience. At this moment, he seems to really live up to the 2 words in his ID, God of War. He actually cracked the coquettish assassin's trick in just one face-to-face encounter. The old fan murmured that he still couldn't accept it, but what he saw told him that this was the case. The winner is the almighty god of war. The coquettish assassin has started a live broadcast. He has started to review the battle live. In the audience, someone yelled, and then many people immediately left and began to watch their favorite anchor's review. However, before these people left, they all silently remembered the idea of Almighty Martial God in their hearts. In the coquettish assassin's live broadcast room, he has received a complete set of video materials of his battle with the Almighty Martial God. This is also the most praised function of the virtual spiritual world martial arts dojo. After every warrior is defeated, he can immediately review and improve. The coquettish assassin currently broadcasting on the live broadcast is no longer as flamboyant and frivolous as when he first met Sugu. His eyes are extremely serious. Sirius didn't even say hello to the fans who poured into his live broadcast room. His fans are also quietly waiting for the results of the picture processing at this moment. When the scene was finally completed in slow motion, when all the movements of the Almighty Martial God and the coquettish assassin were shown in slow motion for clear comparison, these people realized how exaggerated this heavy equipment with the ID name Almighty Martial God was. Starting from the duel between the Almighty God of War and the coquettish assassin, every step he took had a very clear tactical purpose. Guide, restrict, oppress, induce choice. And no matter how gorgeous the steps the coquettish assassin uses, no matter how complex the terrain is, the Almighty Martial God can let his body get stuck in the place that most affects the pace changes. The calm eyes behind the shield seemed to see through everything. There were no steps or combat skills at his feet, but the audience felt a sense of returning to nature. The assassin who was supposed to dominate the rhythm of the battle was like a clumsy monkey imitating the dance of humans. The defensive heavy equipment that should have been reduced to flesh and blood, like an unstoppable human chariot, kept advancing. The coquettish assassin lit up a cigarette when he saw this. "Sass, how did you lose the last move? Now I know that the God of War is very powerful, but I still don't believe that even your famous stunts can't cause even a little bit of damage to the opponent." At this moment, some of his fans were still unwilling to give in and directly asked Rocket a question in the live broadcast room. As the anchor, the coquettish assassin was also very curious, and he had no impression of the last move. It seemed that he was gone all of a sudden. He dragged the progress bar to the position of the final duel, and his famous stunt, the self-created combat skill Qinglong Fengwu Slash, struck the opponent's shield. Then in the middle of the skill, his dagger suddenly slipped, and then a big gap appeared in his whole body. Then the Almighty Martial God made a normal impact and crushed his head. "I lost the last blow because of my own big mistake." The coquettish assassin frowned. A secret passage was impossible. He has used this trick countless times and it has been engraved in his bones. To say that he made a mistake in the last shot was even more difficult for him to accept than this defeat. Slower. Watching it again, when the screen had slowed down enough to clearly see the movements of both sides, the coquettish assassin finally discovered something unusual. When the dagger collided with the heavy shield, the Almighty Martial God did not simply use the shield to defend. He deliberately controlled the tilt angle of the heavy shield to affect the path of the dagger. The first collision was like this, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time. It was clearly the coquettish assassin's ultimate killing move, but in the slow-motion demonstration, he seemed to have become a puppet controlled by the all-powerful God of War. Every time he swung the knife, he was getting closer to death. Until the line of the dagger of the coquettish assassin was completely deflected, and there was a big gap in the move. The scene of his head being easily crushed was played again, and the whole live broadcast room was silent. Generally, heavy armored battles are rarely associated with the word beauty, but watching the battle of the Almighty Martial God and watching him skillfully control the heavy shield in his hand, they felt a simple, heavy and shocking beauty. The coquettish assassin put out the lit cigarette butt and murmured. In this battle, he didn't even use combat skills or superpowers. Purely relying on skills, the heavy armored assassin was forced to death. This sentence made the whole live broadcast room continue to be silent. But the coquettish assassin's eyes suddenly became bright. Although this was a miserable defeat, he did not see any humiliation for himself as a weak and defeated person in the eyes of the Almighty Martial God. In his eyes, there was only the purity of the pursuit of personal martial arts. Such purity rekindled the fire in the heart of this middle-aged warrior. Such a pure warrior should still be fighting in the martial arts arena now. The coquettish assassin said to himself very seriously, "I want to fight the almighty martial god again. This time I will challenge him as a challenger." Soon he edited a challenge letter and sent it to the opponent's mailbox, waiting for the reply from the almighty martial god. Then, the almighty martial god has gone offline. The coquettish assassin, Sugu, took off the X-Device helmet and walked out of the virtual spirit world. As soon as he came out, his mobile phone kept ringing like a bomb. After Sugu answered the call, Momingji's voice came out. "Brother, you are so awesome. What is your martial arts profession? When you took the college entrance examination, weren't you still an assassin or a warrior? What's the matter with the heavy equipment today?" After hearing the other party asking about his martial arts profession, Sugu's face was tangled again. Why did he always encounter the multiple choice questions he hated the most today? After a while, he replied, "I don't know." Momingji was stunned. How could he not know about such things? Then why did you bring a dagger, a gun and a knife when you took the college entrance examination? Aren't you a warrior or an assassin? What's the matter with the heavy equipment today? I was pursuing the efficiency of killing aliens in the college entrance examination. It has nothing to do with the martial arts profession. I can't carry a heavy shield that restricts my movement to kill the star aliens. Listening to the other party's righteous answer, Momingji felt that it made sense for a moment. But then he reacted. Who is this person? Isn't the martial arts profession determined from the beginning? Is there anyone who hasn't decided yet? Momingji was stunned for a moment, and suddenly remembered Sugu's random weapons in the martial arts arena. Could it be that Sugu really picked up any of the dozens of random weapons in the arena and could achieve the effect today? Momingji shook his head fiercely and threw such an outrageous guess out of his mind. But this guess couldn't be shaken off. He couldn't help but think of the conversation when Sugu asked him for A-level combat skills. This guy can't really practice combat skills casually. Momingji murmured. At this moment, Sugu casually threw his phone aside and ended the call. He wanted to continue the challenge in the martial arts arena, but his ability reminded him that the martial arts he practiced, Tianyuan Gong, had mutated. After the consciousness body fought in the virtual spirit world, you have a new understanding of martial arts. And with this understanding, complete the Tianyuan Gong. Complete a breath, the progress of Tianyuan Gong, completion +1. Complete a breath, the progress of Tianyuan Gong, completion +1. At this moment, Sugu seemed to have countless martial arts inspirations bursting out in his mind. He began to follow the guidance of his own inspiration and seek some changes based on the operation of the original, Tianyuan Gong, method. If the route of the method's operation is compared to a river leading to the ocean, then the route of Tianyuan Gong must pass through all the beautiful attractions on the way that are worth staying. But every attraction is just wandering at the entrance. No traveler can take a boat and swim in to enjoy the beautiful scenery relying on the water of Tianyuan Gong. And what Sugu is doing now is to smash a tributary at the entrance of a certain attraction and then lead the water in. Then he took a small boat and leisurely visited the scenic spots. If this matter spread out, I am afraid that the 10 great families of mankind would be interested in him, because this is too amazing. The modified Tianyuan Gong is more in-depth in the excavation of soul power in my flesh and blood cells. Although it is not as good as those top-level exercises, if I can continue to improve this exercise like today, can it really become a supreme divine skill that belongs to me alone? Sugu licked his lips, with the flame of ambition flashing in his eyes. But it is too early to think about these things now. The changes in the exercises have made his soul power fluctuations disordered. Sugu has to stay at home again in the next few days to adapt to the modified exercises and fix the soul power problem. And this idea that just came up, Sugu silently suppressed it in his heart. Ding-ling-a-ling. On the 4th day of retreat at home, a phone call found Sugu and interrupted his practice. Because after the college entrance examination, many people still want to find Sugu, and even a company boss wants to find him to endorse. In order to prevent these mundane things from affecting martial arts, Sugu simply changed his number. Knowing the new number and calling Sugu must have something important. The call was connected, and it was the principal Lu Yuanmin. Sugu, you should come to school as soon as possible. The admissions office teachers of the top universities are all here to recruit you. Lu Yuanmin's voice was so excited that it trembled a little. Even though he had been the principal for so many years, this was the first time that so many teachers from top martial arts universities came to their high school. Are they here so soon? Sugu said with a little surprise. He thought that because of the impact of the martial arts exam a few days ago, these people would come a few days later. Let's type the rest slowly. Where are you now? I'll send a car to pick you up right away. My home. Okay, a teacher will come to your home to pick you up and take you to school right away. ... After ending the call, Lu Yuanmin quickly put his phone into his pocket, then took the tea brewed by his assistant and his treasured tea, and respectfully walked towards the reception hall of Hangzhou No. 1 Middle School. He offered 3 cups of tea to 3 instructors from top universities who were sitting on the sofa. Another cup of tea was given to the mayor Lu Chengwei who was accompanying him. Then he found a wooden stool and sat down and said, I have arranged for someone to pick up Sugu. He will be here soon. Please wait for a while. 3 martial arts seniors. As the head of a school, his status in Hangzhou is not low. But in front of these 3 people, he still has to be humble. In this world where martial arts are respected, the pursuit of powerful warriors has reached the extreme. And the breath exuded by any one of these 3 people is enough to make Lu Yuanmin feel terrified. It is an honor for the instructors from the 3 top universities in the country to come to our city in person. Several seniors should have informed me earlier so that I can arrange for my subordinates to entertain them. Lu Chengwei on the side also said flatteringly. Xingkong Martial Arts University, Kaiyang Martial Arts University, Wangtianya Martial Arts University. These 3 universities are the top universities in the Sha domain of the Earth Federation that recruit civilian students. The schools that are stronger than them are private schools established by top families to train talents. Those schools will not recruit members outside the family. So no matter how well Sugu performs, those schools have no interest in him. And the schools that are weaker than them, after hearing the news that the heads of the admissions offices of the 3 top martial arts universities came to Hangzhou in person, they also left very tactfully. Sugu is likely to choose one of these 3 schools to join. Don't be so nervous, Principal Lu. We are here to recruit good students you have trained, not to cause trouble for you. Xie Sanli, the head of the admissions office of Starry Sky Martial Arts University, said gently, and Mayor Lu is too polite. We are just ordinary teachers in the school. There is no need for such a big show. The woman sitting on the right side of Xie Sanli, who looks fierce and has a hot body, said. Principal Lu, and Mayor Lu, you go and do your business first. The 3 of us are old friends. We haven't seen each other for a long time. It's just right to take advantage of this treasure to greet each other. Lu Yuanmin and Lu Chengwei looked at each other after hearing this. Then he very tactfully withdrew, leaving the space to the 3 big guys. The middle-aged short-haired man who had been silent and closed his eyes to rest said, Long time no see, I didn't expect that there would be students this year that could attract the 3 of us to go out at the same time. This one is Zhou Zongbao from Kaiyang Martial Arts University. The woman who just started to clear the scene was Liang Hongling, the director of the admissions office of Wangtianya Martial Arts University. The 3 of them are the admissions officers of the top universities. They usually don't personally recruit students. But once they show up, it shows that the school behind them is determined to get this student. On weekdays, the 3 of them usually avoid each other, which feels like kings not meeting kings. But this time, because of the same student, they made an exception. Let's make it clear first. Kaiyang Martial Arts University will take Sugu as the student. Zhou Zongbao said firmly. As soon as he came up, he stated his purpose with a strong attitude. You said you want this student, and he will belong to you. Liang Hongling's temper is as explosive as his figure. Facing the other party's declaration, he said directly. I also said that I must take this child away from Wangtianya Martial Arts University today. The 2 stared at each other, you don't let me and I don't let you. Seeing this, Jia Sanli on the side slightly supported his forehead. Why is it like this every time they meet? This kind of thing still depends on the student's own wishes. Jia Sanli said. It also depends on the fate between the child and us. Sugu's background is clean and messy. He is a child of pure civilian origin, without any trace of aristocratic family. In addition to his potential to cross borders and kill enemies, he is the most popular top student among these martial arts universities. While the three were arguing, the sliding door of the school reception hall was opened. Lu Yuanmin and Lu Chengwei brought a tall and handsome boy into the sight of the three. The boy was dressed very simply, and even his martial arts uniform was a little faded due to starching. But he had a calm temperament that only old practitioners have, as if he was a monk who was not happy with things or sad with himself. This is Su Ji-yu. The admissions teachers who had already received the photo to confirm his appearance recognized him at the first time. The admissions office teachers of the three top universities fixed their eyes on Su Ji-yu. Facing the gazes of the three strong men, Sugu's expression was calm and indifferent, without the slightest abnormality on his face. The three teachers' eyes became more and more solemn, as if they were repeatedly confirming something. Finally, Jia Sanli couldn't help but ask, have you broken through to the Zunwo realm? Thanks to a senior's favor, I got a book of exercises, and I broke through these days. Su Ji-yu said. It's the Tianyuan Gong, right? Yes. The three admissions office teachers exchanged glances with each other, and they all saw surprise and determination to get Su Ji-yu in each other's eyes. Looking at the other party's current soul power, it is still a bit disordered. It should be that he has just broken through to the Zunwo realm not long ago. It took about 7 days from the end of the college entrance examination to the recent breakthrough. This speed is not inferior to the heirs of some big families. The three admissions teachers looked at each other and then looked away again. Then he focused his attention on Sugu again, not hiding the heat in his eyes. The first person to speak was Zhou Zongbao from Kaiyang Martial Arts University. He said bluntly, Sugu, you must already know why we came to see you. I won't talk nonsense. On behalf of Kaiyang Martial Arts University, I will conduct a special recruitment for you. After watching your college entrance examination video, I think you are a born warrior, Su Ji-yu. And I, Kaiyang University, have the best warrior resources among these three universities. As long as you enroll in our school, I can guarantee that you can practice the top warrior technique in the entire federal university, Tianluo Heart Technique. As long as you enroll in school, you can immediately give up the useless, Tian Yuan Gong, you are currently practicing. Tian Luo Heart Technique will definitely help you go further on the road of being a warrior. After hearing Zhou Zongbao's conditions, the expressions on the faces of Lu Yuanmin and Lu Chengwei became extremely exciting. This is the best technique of Kaiyang Martial Arts University. You must know that a powerful skill is a secret that is not passed down in some powerful families. If someone wants to steal their studies, even at the risk of violating federal laws, those aristocratic families will pursue them relentlessly. As soon as Sugu entered school, he had the opportunity to practice the school's most powerful skills. He was trained as a core disciple in a noble family. From now on, as long as Sugu doesn't do anything to discredit the school, his treatment will always be that of a biological son. They looked at Sugu, who looked calm at the moment and didn't express much. If before he entered the virtual spiritual world, the other party said that he could practice top-notch warrior skills, Sugu might be tempted. But now, Sugu already has his own considerations in terms of martial arts. Bah, you haven't done enough preparation at all. Why do you have the nerve to come here to recruit students? Liang Hongling, who had a hot temper, obviously had a grudge against Zhou Zongbao for quarreling with her just now. Seeing that Sugu didn't say anything, he happily demolished the opponent. Then she pulled Zhou Zongbao away from Su Ji-yu, put her charming face close to him, and said with a blue breath to Su Ji-yu, I have completely watched your entire performance and video in the college entrance examination. In addition to knives, you also used daggers and spears. The technique you practice now is still the most famous transitional technique, Tian Yuan Gong. Obviously, Mr. Sugu, you haven't completely decided on the martial arts path you want to take in the future. I hope Tianya Martial Arts University will be the only one in the entire Shiyu Federation in the subdivided research fields of major martial arts professions. When you come to us, the top experts will plan your martial arts path. And our school also has cooperation with the military. When the time comes, you will also have the opportunity to try out the latest martial arts weapons first. When Liang Hongling spoke, her cheeks were very close to Su Ji. The body fragrance of a mature woman penetrated directly into Sugu's nose. But Sugu's eyes have always been as dull as water, turning a blind eye to the casual temptation of the charming mature woman in front of him, as if he was a stone-hearted person. However, when the other party mentioned that there were a large number of new martial arts weapons that could be tried out, Sugu's eyes brightened up, and he was obviously a little moved. Seeing Su Ji like this, Liang Hongling felt happy. He promised so many benefits, and went into battle in person to seduce this fledgling kid, so it was easy to catch him. This time, it's stable. Zhou Zongbao and Xie Sanli looked anxiously on the side, fearing that Sugu would just agree and leave with Wangtianya Martial Arts University. Sugu's expression quickly returned to calm, and he continued. Senior, please don't get so close to me. I have to think about which martial arts university to choose. Sugu's reply made Liang Hongling's face stiffen. She took a step back and sat on the sofa again. You gritted your silver teeth and looked at Sugu bitterly. The beauty came over to you, but you pushed her away. Are you still a man? Zhou Zongbao secretly breathed a sigh of relief when he met Jia Sanli. Then Jia Sanli stepped forward and said, Our Starry Sky Martial Arts University is the earliest martial arts university established by mankind. Its history can be traced back to the Dark Ages. Here is the most complete reserve of martial arts combat skills and exercises among the three universities. Many exercises can become top-level exercises and require the derivation of generations of martial arts. Our school has backups of the original blueprints and templates of those top-level exercises. Quote, What's so weird about just bragging about past history? Liang Hongling said softly. Yes, there is a way to compare the current situation. Zhou Zongbao also said. Hearing what the two said, the look on Jia Sanli's face became a little embarrassed. Indeed, as they said, in the recent ranking of the top universities on Earth, Starry Sky Martial Arts University barely made it into the top 100, ranking at the bottom among the three martial arts universities. This really damages the reputation of this oldest martial arts university. But then Xie Sanli's expression returned to its original state, and he continued, Our Starry Sky Martial Arts University has the freest style of study and the oldest inheritance. Come to us, and you will be assigned your top instructor as a freshman. And because we have a long history, we have the most extensive martial arts heritage in the school. You will definitely be able to find the martial arts path that suits you best here. The three top universities all offered the most favorable conditions they could when facing Sugu. At this moment, the three of them looked at Sugu at the same time, looking forward to his final choice. Su Ji pondered for a moment, then said calmly, I choose Starry Sky Martial Arts University. After hearing this, everyone present seemed a little surprised. Starry Sky Martial Arts University is not bad, and it is the university that many martial arts students dream of. But students like Su Ji obviously have better places to go, and they can't understand why they choose this Earth university that ranks low. Does this kid have a fetish for ancient times? Although I don't understand the reason why Su Ji made this choice, as a senior, he has been rejected, and the remaining two people can't pester him. Zhou Zongbao and Liang Hongling were not convenient to stay here for a long time, so they said goodbye and left here. And Jia Sanli excitedly shook Sugu's hand, saying, Good, all the time. Don't worry, classmate Su Ji, Starry Sky Martial Arts University will not let you down. Su Ji looked at the other party, also with a smile on his face. He chose this school because he valued the school's many combat skills and martial arts heritage. It will be of great benefit to Su Ji to deduce his own skills in the future. These are what Su Ji considered during his retreat these days. But there is one more thing, and I have to say it in advance while this admissions teacher is here. I have a small request. Su Ji said. Jia Sanli said excitedly. Student Su Ji, as long as the request is not too excessive, I can directly agree to it for you. I want to apply for the command department of Shinkong Martial Arts University. You want to go to the command department? Jia Sanli's face was full of surprise. He scratched his ears, as if to confirm whether he had heard wrongly. Sugu, why did you choose this major? Sugu, you finally got into a top university, why do you want to joke about your future? Mayor Liu Chengwei and Principal Liu Yuanman on the side dissuaded him. In their estimation, Sugu's first choice of major must be the Warrior Academy. How many people can do the cross-level slash to kill the enemy? This is a natural melee fighter. It may be worth discussing whether to choose a knife or a gun as a weapon in the end. The alternative major must be assassin. In addition, if Sugu chooses a long-range warrior or heavy armor, they may be surprised, but they will not dissuade him. After all, Sugu's current practice method is Tianyuan Gong. Although this method is useless, it is comprehensive. The future of young people has infinite possibilities. But the command system, this. Xie Sanli said seriously. Maybe classmate Sugu is devoted to martial arts and doesn't know much about the current situation of the command system. I will seriously explain it to you. Dark Ages did produce god-level commanders. They led the human Star Sea Fleet to defeat many star alien communities with the weak, and under their command, humans hunted mythical creatures. This is also the original intention of the establishment of the command system. But after the Dark Ages, the star aliens had long been driven away by humans. Now is a peaceful era. How can there be a large-scale battle to use the command system? This is a sunset major. Speaking of this, Xie Sanli paused. He was hesitating about what to say next. Is it appropriate for his teacher at the Starry Sky Martial Arts University to say it? But looking at Sugu, he took a deep breath and said. Now in Starry Sky Martial Arts University, the Command Department and the Command Academy can be said to be the place where the garbage students of the Academy are kept. Do you know what kind of students there are? They are all students who can't get into Starry Sky Martial Arts University at all, but their parents have a little money and are local rich people. They are willing to exchange interests and send their children in. Although Starry Sky Martial Arts University has been falling in the global university rankings recently, it is still a great school. But the Command Academy is a stain on this school. After saying this, Xie Sanli breathed a sigh of relief. Since the stain of his own school has been directly mentioned, Sugu can't be so depressed. The three of them looked at Sugu at the same time, all expecting Sugu to change his major. But Sugu just smiled. He knew what Xie Sanli said a long time ago. Not to mention the distant past, didn't Ma Mingji's father donate a building to Starry Sky Martial Arts University so that Ma Mingji could enter this school? Sugu still insisted on choosing the command department even though he knew all this. Naturally, he had his own considerations. As the highest commander of a war, the students of the command department may not have strong personal abilities, but they must have enough knowledge of the combat skills and techniques of various martial arts professions. Otherwise, he cannot arrange his soldiers in the most suitable positions on the battlefield. Students of the Warrior Department and Assassin Department of General Martial Arts Universities need to write reports one by one if they want to learn combat skills and techniques that do not match their professions. The Command Department has no such restrictions at all. Students of this major have the highest learning and reading permissions for combat skills and techniques in the entire school. This is for Sugu, who hopes to use Tianyuan Gong as a blueprint to create his own techniques and is determined to follow his own martial arts. This major is the most suitable place. Teacher Jia, you don't need to persuade me anymore. I have considered the choice of professional colleges many times at home these days. My choice is the command department. After hearing Sugu say this, the faces of the three people present changed one after another. Why are you so stubborn, kid? Liu Yuanman's face was full of anxiety. He didn't want the phoenix that his school had finally flown out to be delayed like this. He grabbed his few hairs and tried his best to organize his words, trying to dissuade Sugu. Liu Chengwei's mouth opened and closed, and then opened and closed again, thinking over and over again how to stop Sugu from going astray. At this time, Xie Sanli stopped the two of them. He looked at Sugu seriously and said, although I don't know why you made this choice, we can only give advice on the choice of major and have no right to interfere. When you come to Starry Sky Martial Arts University, we will send a special car to pick up you provincial champions within the university's sphere of influence. I look forward to the day when you come to Starry Sky Martial Arts University. On behalf of the school, I welcome you in advance. After saying that, he turned and left. As a teacher in the admissions office of a university, this is his busiest time of the year. Now that he has said everything he should say to Sugu, since it is the other party's final choice, Xie Sanli is not convenient to say anything more. Perhaps when Sugu actually joins the Command Academy, he will understand how outrageous and wrong this choice is. Then he will go through the transfer process himself. Xie Sanli thought secretly. Although under normal circumstances, after choosing a professional academy, it cannot be changed. But geniuses always have some privileges. According to the tradition of Shinkong Martial Arts University, after the new students have chosen their skills and entered the self-seeking realm, there will be a competition for the new students. That might be a good opportunity for Sugu to recognize the reality. After Xie Sanli left, Lu Yuanmin and Lu Chengwei looked at Sugu with complicated expressions. They really didn't know why Sugu made this decision, but as Xie Sanli said, it was not convenient for them to obstruct it. Looking at Sugu, he hesitated to speak. The three of them just stood there, not knowing what to say. After a while, Lu Yuanmin took the initiative to find a topic. Have you watched the most popular battle analysis video recently? It's the one whose ID is Almighty Martial God, and the coquettish assassin, right? Of course I watched it. Lu Chengwei said with a smile. Cough, cough. Hearing someone in real life call out the Chuni ID he had picked up in the virtual spiritual world, Sugu almost coughed out the tea he drank from his nose. His face twitched as he looked at Lu Yuanmin and Lu Chengwei and said, Almighty Martial God. You do not know. Lu Chengwei looked at Sugu and was a little surprised. This is one of the most popular videos leaked from the virtual spiritual world martial arts dojo in the past few days. Seeing this, Lu Yuanmin also said, it is rare that the cannon fodder segment is popular and is as popular as the video of the competition between the elite segments. It is said that some martial arts universities specializing in heavy equipment have made that battle video the most popular. A new case was played to explain to the freshmen how to deal with assassins. As he spoke, he took out his cell phone and found the video of the battle. Sugu looked over and saw that the loser, the coquettish assassin, took the initiative to play the video on his large phone. He divided the video into 2p. The first half is the battle process played at original speed, and the second half is his own review and analysis of the battle. The video barrages of both sub-Ps have reached 10W+, and the total number of barrages exceeds 20W, which is indeed a very terrifying amount of views. At the end of the video, the coquettish assassin appeared in person and said with great seriousness, Almighty Martial God, I was a little frivolous and absent-minded at the beginning of the battle with you. I'm sorry. This battle has rekindled my pursuit and desire for martial arts. Although I am not overestimating my abilities, I am eager to fight you again. I have sent the challenge letter to your email, and I hope you will consider it. It's quite interesting to watch your own battles from a third-person perspective. Sugu thought to himself, the fact that this battle can be so exciting has something to do with the all-powerful god of war's cool moves before. That's right, without limiting the range and using random weapons regardless of martial arts profession restrictions, it is indeed enough. If I were younger, I would also like to do this again. However, this all-powerful god of martial arts is obviously lucky enough. Judging from his subsequent performance, this kind of defensive heavy equipment is obviously the direction of his martial arts. Being able to randomly pick up weapons that suit his martial arts profession, this pretentious choice can be said to him. There are no restrictions. Lu Yuanmin and Lu Chengwei began to analyze the battle seriously. Sugu became more and more weird as he listened. Didn't the random weapon button help him cure his difficulty in choosing? Why does it have anything to do with pretentiousness? Lu Yuanmin suddenly patted Sugu on the back and joked. Sugu, in the martial arts dojo, many users are students from the martial arts university. I think this almighty god of war is probably a student. In the future, there will be exchange battles between universities. Maybe you can face off against this all-powerful god of war. As a melee warrior, Sugu can kill enemies across levels and can be said to be the sharpest spear, while the almighty martial god, as a heavy weapon, can force a good assassin to death by relying only on pressure without using supernatural combat skills. Strong shield. The collision of spears and shields is indeed exciting. Sugu's face was a little twitching. Why did he still have his own business? He glanced at the battle video again, confirmed that the system face given to him by the virtual spirit world would not be recognized, and then agreed with a smile. That's really exciting. After the school registration and major application were completed, Sugu first gave a speech to the younger students in Hangzhou No. 1 Middle School. Then he took a few group photos with Mayor Liu Chengwei for the city government's publicity. After finishing these things, Sugu had no reason to stay in Hangzhou. Tianjin City, where Xingkang Martial Arts University is located, is hundreds of kilometers away from Hangzhou. The journey is long, and he has to adapt to the school environment in advance. So Sugu and Ma Mingji set off in advance to Tianjin City. On the day of departure, Sugu's neighbors came to see him off. Xiao Jiyu, be careful on the road, remember to eat on time every day. When you get there, call us to report your safety. Xiao Jiyu, Grandpa still has some beef jerky at home, you can take some to eat on the road. Sugu is the child these neighbors have seen since childhood. And now, because of Sugu, Mayor Liu Chengwei waved his hand to build a subway station near this remote community, connecting the city subway line. Because of this incident, the prices of their houses have increased several times, and travel has become much more convenient. Sugu has brought a huge benefit to the neighbors living near his home, and naturally he is loved by them. Uncles, aunts, grandparents, you don't have to see me off, my brother is here to pick me up. At the gate of the community, Sugu said goodbye to the neighbors with a smile and got on the black floating luxury car of Ma Mingji's family. The neighbors watched the luxury car carrying Sugu away until they disappeared in the distant sky. I guess after this farewell, Sugu will soar into the sky. I don't know if he will come back to see his home as his starting point. Someone said with emotion. Ma Mingji's family sent Sugu and the others to the high-speed rail station and then left. On the next journey, if the older generation were to get in among the young people, they would feel constrained. Simply listen to the young people's request and let them go alone. Didn't you say you would get your hovercar license during the holidays and drive me to school? Why do you want me to take the high-speed train today? As soon as he got off the train and left Ma Mingji's parents, Sugu immediately started to tease him about not passing the driver's license test. Ma Mingji immediately glared at him and cursed. Sugu, stop talking nonsense, you stingy guy, you got so many scholarships, but you didn't even buy a first-class high-speed train ticket. I have never taken a seat below business class on public transportation since I was a child. Quote. The two of them pushed their suitcases and walked into the high-speed rail station, sitting on the high-speed rail. Just after getting on the train and putting down their luggage, Ma Mingji fell asleep in his seat. Sugu looked at him and thought to himself, I heard that this guy has been working on a website recently and is busy until late every day. He refused to tell me what he was doing. Since his brother didn't want to say, Sugu wouldn't ask in detail. Seeing that Ma Mingji had fallen asleep, Sugu asked the flight attendant to cover Ma Mingji with a blanket, while he sat in his seat and flipped through the book he had just bought, The Evolution of Top Martial Arts. It briefly introduces the history of the derivation of various top martial arts in human history, as well as the characteristics of each period. Sugu wants to find his own way in martial arts, and this book has a very good reference value. It is also a good prop to kill time on the road. The journey from Hangzhou to Tianjin is long, and the high-speed train has to stop at several platforms along the way. Sugu and Ma Mingji were sitting in a four-person area, and the passengers opposite them came and went. One of them was reading a book, and the other was sleeping, without being affected at all. When they were about to reach their destination, a man and a woman sat down opposite them, two people of the same age as Sugu. The girl wore glasses and had a pretty face. She looked quite quiet and didn't like to talk. The boy opposite Sugu was completely the opposite of the girl. He chattered non-stop after getting on the train. Xingkang Martial Arts University is one of the top civilian universities in the entire Xiu. Zuo Tiantian, we are the only two people in our city who go to this school. We must take care of each other in the future. Quote. The boy who called himself Lu Zita kept saying to the girl next to him. I'm lucky this year. Not only did I pass the score line of Starry Sky Martial Arts University, but the college I was assigned to is also in line with the martial arts career I want to pursue. After I finish my 4 years of college and graduate, I will definitely become an independent martial artist. The boy talked freely, constantly boasting about his admission to Starry Sky Martial Arts University, and vividly describing his amazing performance in the martial arts exam. The girl named Zuo Tiantian responded with a smile at first, but later she gradually showed impatience, and it was obvious that her patience with the boy was almost at its limit. It's so noisy, can't I sleep? Quote, Ma Mingji, who had been sleeping in his seat, was woken up by the boy who kept chattering. He lifted the blanket covering him and said angrily. When he saw the girl sitting opposite him, his face suddenly froze, and the mood he had just woken up disappeared immediately. Then he poked Su Jiyu with his elbow, and his 2 pairs of small eyes opened wide and stared at him. You are so mean, you didn't even ask me to get up and look at such a beautiful girl. Su Jiyu immediately glared back. You sleep like a dead pig, who can wake you up? After a brief exchange of glances, Su Jiyu took back the book in his hand. With the noisy character of the guy next to him, he couldn't read the book next. When Su Jiyu raised his face that had been buried in the book, Zuo Tiantian saw the appearance of the boy sitting opposite him, who had been covering his face with the book. At that moment, she seemed to feel that the brightness of the world in her eyes was turned up a little. The good mood that was just ruined by Lu Zita's nagging was restored a lot after seeing that handsome face. What a handsome boy. In addition to his appearance, what made Zuo Tiantian's heart beat was the calm temperament of this boy. His eyes were quiet and peaceful, completely different from many boys who would stick to her with lustful eyes as soon as they came up. Hello, classmate. I am Ma Mingji, a freshman at Starry Sky Martial Arts University. The one next to me is my brother Su Jiyu, who is also admitted to this school. There is only one martial arts university in Tianjin City. We should be classmates. Ma Mingji smiled and pulled Su Jiyu, saying hello to Zuo Tiantian. Su Jiyu could only nod helplessly and said, Hello, my name is Su Jiyu. Zuo Tiantian, a freshman in the Department of Special Powers at Starry Sky Martial Arts University, Zuo Tiantian said to the two with a smile. Then he secretly glanced at Su Jiyu, who was a little absent-minded, and then said, Since we are all going to report to Starry Sky Martial Arts University, let's report together later. Okay. Ma Mingji agreed hurriedly, and then quickly pulled Sugu's clothes. The girl obviously feels good about you, so seize the opportunity. Sugu's face was helpless. He really didn't understand why these people were so concerned about such a love affair. Isn't the extraordinary martial arts path enough to attract the energy of these people? Lu Zita, who was standing by, was anxious and angry when he saw that the girl he had flirted with for so long was now being taken advantage of by 2 people who came out of nowhere. But in order to maintain his gentlemanly demeanor, he could not get angry and could only interrupt the conversation between the 2 people. My name is Lu Zita, and I am also a freshman at Starry Sky Martial Arts University. By the way, I am from the Warrior Academy, the Warrior Department. Which academy are you from? Mingji and I both applied for the Command Academy. Su Jiyu said calmly. After hearing this, Lu Zita and Zuo Tiantian were both stunned. Then, the fake smile on Lu Zita's face immediately turned into visible joy. Command Academy. The most useless academy that you can go to as long as your family has a little money, and you can go there just to add a layer of gold to your resume. He said with a smile on his face. At the same time, he breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out that he was a waste from the Command Academy. How could such a person compete with him? Don't worry, even if your Command Academy is the most useless academy in the whole school, it is still Starry Sky Martial Arts University. When the time comes, add this to your resume, and it will be no problem to go out and fool people who don't know anything about it. Lu Zita said carelessly. He naturally took back the initiative of the conversation among the 4 people, and talked to the other 3 people. His words were all about belittling the Command Academy and indirectly belittling Ma and Su, in order to elevate himself. Ma Mingji was so angry that his teeth itched, but seeing that his brother Su Jiyu was too lazy to look at him, he didn't argue with him to avoid losing face. Zuo Tiantian, who was standing aside, yawned and felt extremely irritated. Her eyes kept glancing at Sugu, who was sitting quietly by the window and looking at the scenery outside. In addition to looking at him pleasing to the eye, Zuo Tiantian also felt a sense of familiarity when looking at that face, as if she had seen him somewhere before. But when I think back to the faces of the friends I knew since childhood, there is indeed no such person as Sugu. Am I overthinking? These unintentional actions of Zuo Tiantian were naturally noticed by Lu Zita, who had been focusing on her. He looked at Sugu, who had been silent, and a surge of anger rose in his heart. It seems that always using words is always weak. Only by comparing with some actual cases can Tiantian understand that compared with this useless person with only a face, I am the one who deserves her. When the high-speed train stopped at the Tianjin city platform, the 4 people from the same school who met on the high-speed train were ready to pick up their luggage and go to the school's freshman report office to report. Ma Mingji was one step ahead of Lu Zita and helped Zuo Tiantian take out the suitcase, then threw the pink suitcase to Sugu and let the 2 people walk together. Then he used his generous body to forcefully separate Lu Zita from Sugu and Zuo Tiantian. This set of smooth combos was silently rehearsed countless times in the heart when the little fat man listened to Lu Zita bragging about himself in his words on the train. After using it smoothly, Lu Zita was so angry that he almost didn't leave the high-speed rail station before he took out his weapon and challenged Ma Mingji to a duel. When Lu Zita was walking behind, he saw the goddess he had been chasing for so long, and she seemed to take the initiative to approach Sugu inadvertently. When the 2 of them walked, their left and right arms always stuck together unintentionally. His eyes were almost spitting fire. Sugu and Ma Mingji, right. They are just 2 useless people in the command system, but they actually stole women from me. Today I will step on your face hard. After walking out of the ticket gate, Lu Zita took the lead and took the initiative to act as a tour guide. We don't have to go there by ourselves on the way to Hoshikura Martial Arts University. In order to welcome new students, Hoshikura University cooperated with the city's transportation system and opened a special route to the school. We can just wait at the platform of the high-speed rail station for a while. A special car will pick us up soon. Furthermore, Martial Arts University adheres to a wolf culture that respects the strong. The higher the test scores of students, the higher-end cars they can pick up and drop off. It is said that those provincial champions who were specially recruited by him will be specially picked up and dropped off by their teachers in floating luxury cars. Lu Zita was talking and leading the way, and they quickly arrived at the waiting point dedicated to Starry Sky Martial Arts. Not long after, an S99 Mercedes-Benz stopped in front of the 4 people. This military off-road vehicle, which sells for millions outside, is actually used by Shinkong Martial Arts University to pick up and drop off students. I have to lament the luxury of this school. Sugu, let's go to school together. Zuo Tiantian took the initiative to pull Sugu's sleeve and wanted to sit in the back seat of the car with him. At this moment, Lu Zita held down the car door and stopped her from opening it. Sorry, Sugu and classmate Ma Mingji. Lu Zita said with a smile. This bus is here to pick up me and Zuo Tiantian, who is in the same city as me. Judging from the college entrance examination scores, there will be buses to pick up students from your command department. It seems that our fate has ended today and we can only part ways here. Seeing Lu Zita smiling and deliberately making things difficult for others, Zuo Tiantian frowned and said. Isn't it just a car ride? Why are you so stingy? Isn't this kind of thing a violation of school rules and regulations? I don't want to be like this, but the rules are the rules. Lu Zita looked extremely proud. He just wanted to rely on this matter to make Sugu and Ma Mingji understand the gap between them. After today, he didn't believe that the 2 of them had lost such a big face, and he didn't believe that the other party would still have the shamelessness to come to Zuo Tiantian again. Then Lu Zita stepped forward, patted Sugu on the shoulder, and said in an old-fashioned way. Classmate Sugu, since we are traveling together, I will give you a message today. A good school doesn't mean you are good. Although you can barely go to the same university as me with some money saved by your parents, this is not your ability. It's for your own good that I won't let you get in the car today. After all, on the road of life, how many people will let strangers get in the car? Remember today's lesson and work hard to catch up with me in the future. In front of Zuo Tiantian, he gave Sugu a hard lesson. Lu Zida's heart, which had been blocked ever since he got off the high-speed train, finally felt relieved. Sugu glanced at him lightly, then gently patted his arm on his shoulder away, and then said, "No, the car to pick us up has arrived. Oh, the bus to pick you and Momingji up has arrived. In that case, I will." Boom! The roar of an engine came from the sky, interrupting Lu Zida's words. The four of them looked up at the same time and saw a streamlined and exaggerated floating luxury car slowly descending from above their heads and parked next to the S99 Mercedes. Lu Zida's mouth slowly opened. This is the X100 model Bugatti Veyron. Although it looks like the size of an ordinary off-road vehicle, this vehicle has a small ecological circulation system inside. If the owner is willing and his body is strong enough, he can even drive this car out of the atmosphere. When this car is parked next to the S99 Mercedes, it looks like a piece of exquisite Damascus steel next to a rusty steel bar. The two simply cannot be compared. Isn't this Director Xie? You actually came out in person. Is this because the school has a task for you to do? At this moment, the person sitting in the driver's seat of the S99 Mercedes stuck his head out of the window and spoke respectfully to the owner of the Veyron. "There is a very special student. I want to pick him up personally." Jia Sanli got off the car and said helplessly. When Lu Zida heard these words, his whole body suddenly trembled, and then his heart trembled with excitement. The director of the school personally drove to pick up the students. Which student can have such a great reputation? There are only 4 freshmen from Star Martial Arts University standing here waiting for the bus. Those 2 losers in the command system can be excluded directly, and Zuo Tiantian's college entrance examination score is not as high as hers. From this point of view, could it be that Director Xie is here to pick me up? Lu Zida's heart was beating loudly, and it seemed that it was exactly what he felt. The director named Xie Sanli waved towards him with a smile. Just when he was thinking about how to give the other party a good impression, Sugu beside him said calmly, "Long time no see, Teacher Xie. I didn't expect you to pick me up when school starts. It's troublesome." Actually, it didn't take long. Xie Sanli smiled and said, "Now that you're here, hurry up and get in the car. I'll take you to school." Lu Zida, who had been smiling just now, seemed to be possessed by the power of petrification. His smile froze along with his whole body. The director of the Starry Sky Martial Arts University, specially here to pick up the trash from the command department. How can this be? Could it be that this person named Sugu is from a big family? What's the connection with heaven? But among the top aristocratic families in Sha territory, there is no one named Su. I'm sorry, I never mentioned it before, but my brother is the top scholar in the province's martial arts examination. So this car is here to pick up my brother. Ma Mingji said to Lu Zida with a smile. My brother likes to keep a low profile, but I like to be slapped in the face the most. Weren't you such an arrogant educator just now? Now call me another one. Zuo Tiantian on the side covered her mouth in disbelief. She never expected that Sugu, who was so low-key on the road, would be the provincial champion. And the top scorer in the martial arts examination and the command system. Why are these 2 unrelated labels attached to the same person? Suddenly, Zuo Tiantian's big eyes slowly opened wide and her pupils began to shrink. She finally knew why she always felt familiar when looking at Sugu. Sugu was indeed not her classmate in the city, and she searched the wrong memory. Sugu, you are from Hangzhou. In this year's college entrance examination, you must be the one who crossed the realm and killed the warrior-level Starry Sky Titan. Hangcheng made a promotional video for Sugu, and following the controversy surrounding the unfair college entrance examination, the video became popular. Zuo Tiantian also saw the video, but she never expected that the boy who killed the enemy with a knife in the video was actually sitting opposite her along the way. Zuo Tiantian's eyes gradually changed when she looked at Sugu, from her favorable impression of handsome men of the same age to her admiration for powerful warriors. Lu Zida moved his stiff head when Zuo Tiantian was talking. When he saw the change in his goddess's eyes, he felt his heart twitching and hurting. It's fake, it's all fake. He whispered in a voice that only he could hear. Since we are together, it is fate. Tiantian, you will also ride to school with us. Ma Mingji greeted Zuo Tiantian with a smile. Me. Zuo Tiantian was slightly stunned when she heard someone calling her name. Then she realized that she had been staring at a boy and was acting a bit rude. She blushed slightly and turned her head away. After Sugu expressed no objection, she nodded in agreement. Feeling the pain as if his heart was throbbing, Luzita knew that all this was true. And just before leaving, Sugu smiled and patted Luzita on the shoulder. The principle he has always adhered to is not to cause trouble and not be afraid of trouble. Since the other party has caused him trouble, Sugu doesn't mind giving him a lesson. I'm sorry, classmate Luzita, it's not convenient for you to get in the car that's here to pick me up. But for the sake of your kindness just now, I will leave you with a few words. Just because the school is awesome doesn't mean you are awesome. It's for your own good that I won't let you get in the car today. After all, on the road of life, how many people will let strangers get in the car? After speaking, Sugu turned and left. Luzita stared at the words the other party said in his own words and returned them intact. Then he watched Zuo Tiantian, who he had flirted with for a long time, finally get into the back seat of a luxury car with Sugu, and then the suspended luxury car took off and flew into the distance. He seemed to hear his heart being broken like glass. Ding! The Mercedes driver who had been waiting for him honked his horn impatiently, then stuck his head in and said, "Are you leaving or not?" Luzita said with the strength that was about to crush his teeth. "Let's go, why don't you go?" He got in the car and said in his heart. Although I don't know why Sugu chose the Command Academy, the teaching resources of the Command Department of Star Martial Arts University are not even half as good as those of other academies. Even if you are the provincial champion, in this case, you will definitely fall behind. I also have a chance to surpass you and defeat you. Luzita swore in his heart that he would avoid today's shame. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.